All right, everybody, welcome in on this Sunday. Very excited for you guys to join us. A hell of a week 7, and we're going to try and get to everything, recapping what happened in college football, also previewing a big day in the NFL, some really good matchups we have going down. Make sure before we get to anything, you hit that like button. You hit it hard. I'm talking about coming downhill Derrick Henry hard, and you hit that subscribe button. Everything helps the channel. Appreciate you guys. Remember, if you do donate, your question gets asked. I already see we got one there in the chat, but let me bring in former Heisman candidate, Michigan quarterback, David Never Home Alone Cone, and then my brother, Western Colorado wide receiver, friend of Austin Eckler, and also still my brother. What's up, guys? Heck of a weekend.
What's up, fellas?
God, was it a really good weekend? Was it a good weekend in college football, guys? Kind of mediocre, right?
No, it just delivered again, like Amazon and UPS had a baby. But I want to jump right into it. I see we do have a donation there, Blaine.
Let's go to Jordan Kilgo. What's up, Jay? What's taking so long to fire Harsin? Is it the AD, fellas?
It's every situation is different. I think when we kind of generalize coaching searches into, well, it's in this category, it kind of paints a broad brush, and we don't need to do that. Right now, Auburn doesn't have an athletic director. And if you are a coach that is worth your salt, you are not going to take that job without an athletic director. Do you want to know why? Because when the AD hires you, it's like coach's insurance. That's basically what it is. You have protection, like the mob, that you guys are tied together. And in a place like Auburn, where we know football is still king, regardless of what Butch Thompson and Bruce Pearl do in baseball and basketball, it's going to determine whether that AD keeps their job or not. So you want to be connected to the AD that gets hired. I think right now you're looking at John Hartwell's probably going to get hired, and then you're going to have Jeff Grimes be the next head coach at Auburn. We'll see what type of staff we can put together there. But to me, why not just go ahead and let him go? Just rip the Band-Aid off now. You know, again, you're going to fire him, and when you fire him, that is going to affect recruiting. Do you want recruits to already know he's gone to make it, maybe an easier transition when that new guy gets in there to say, hey, you were committed to Auburn with Coach Harsin. Now come with me. So that's really the reason why.
All right, let's go to Real Truth Cactus, $1.99 donation. He says, I just need everyone to sing Rocky Top today, fellas.
All right, hey, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Rocky Top will always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Rocky Top, Tennessee. There you go. We're just an all-inclusive entertainment branch here. And I didn't use my good singing voice on that. I should have maybe done it like a sing Creed. But guys, let's go ahead and start.
Darby Lou banned the song for the weekend.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, believe me, it's going to get played on repeat. But guys, let's go ahead and start in the SEC. You got to start with Tennessee and Alabama. The game absolutely delivered. Tennessee was able to jump out on them. They deferred. Alabama, ended up punting. Tennessee went down there and scored really quickly. And the thing that we talked about going in all week and to this game is, there's weaknesses. Is Alabama's secondary the best? No. Have they struggled a little bit? Yes. But at the end of the day, Tennessee still had to be balanced on offense to be able to be a threat to him. I mean, you look at Hendon Hooker. He ended up, with 56 yards on the ground, no touchdowns, did average 4 yards a carry. But then Wright ends up with 71 yards on 12 carries. That's almost 6 yards a carry, guys. And I know Hyatt hogged all the touchdowns. I mean, we haven't seen, Hyatt hog that much since J.B. Prisker went to the last Golden Corral, but a huge win for Tennessee. But were you surprised how Tennessee was able to run the ball, how they were able to stay balanced on offense? Because you knew Alabama was going to score, and they sure did.
I wasn't surprised that it was a high-scoring affair. We thought we might see a shootout. I was just surprised that Alabama's defense wasn't able to lock down those receivers more and get to Hendon Hooker a little bit more. But first off, what a fantastic football game, man. We got everything we wanted with that game. Most points scored against Alabama since the Swanee shootout of 1907. Can you believe it?
Man, we all remember that one.
You know what? We talk about Tennessee's defense, especially when they were playing Florida at home, how they were bending but not breaking. And Anthony Richardson even threw for 450 in that game. And when push came to shove late in this game, what did you see? Tennessee manned up on Alabama. They weren't afraid to play man defense and come after Bryce Young. We got to see the defending Heisman Trophy winner in the pocket. Alabama was at full strength. Bryce looked healthy, still threw for 450. So all in all, man, shout out to the Tennessee Volunteers. And it just proves that I think that this college football race right now is wide open.
It is. Blaine?
I took a couple things from this game. One, Jahmyr Gibbs is a starting running back in the NFL right now. That dude is just – he was making cuts that angles that you can't even figure out in a geometry class. Two, Hendon Hooker is the leader for the Heisman.
Yes.
I think we can all say that right now. That was his Heisman moment, that game. And I look at this game, and there's not really a moment in this game where I thought Tennessee didn't have just as good as athletes as Bama did, if not better. Tennessee can run it with anybody in the nation. I didn't give them enough credit. Said they're going to be the third best team in the SEC. Hell, right now they're the second or the first. And the big thing for me is this is probably the most undisciplined Alabama team I've seen under Nick Saban. I mean, 17 penalties for 130 yards. Mm-hmm. I know some were questionable, but they got some questionable calls too, like that one pass interference in the end zone. And the punt fumble is just – I usually don't see this from a Nick Saban team, so that's what I'm most worried about. But I knew the team with the ball last was going to win this game. It was that type of game. And I'm glad Tennessee fans get to enjoy this. But that's one of the best atmospheres I've seen in a long time in college football.
Yeah, it was a matter of time, but before they were able to knock the wall down and beat Bama. I mean, I was just waiting for somebody to call on Gorbachev to knock down the wall. But when this game, to me, Len, I agree with you. Tennessee, and again, another thing we said, this felt like going into this game, this was the first time in a long time that if Tennessee played really well and Alabama played really well, Tennessee could still win. Mm-hmm. Tennessee didn't need Alabama to play bad and them to play over their head to win. I think that shows you what Josh Heupel's been able to do with that roster, the environment, and up front. Thought they held up front. Look, I know Alabama had success on offense. I mean, hell, Bryce Young threw for over 400 yards. But you were able to score with them. You were able to make the plays at the end. And look, some people will talk about, this penalty here, this penalty there. I don't think penalties decided the game. I think the players and the coaches decided that game. Mm-hmm. But for the second time this season, guys, and this goes back to what you say, Blaine, about being undisciplined. For the second time this season, Alabama set a record under Nick Saban in penalties. They did at Texas. They set the record before the fourth quarter even started. And you thought, because in the past we've seen when Alabama's kind of stumbled like that, that's been a rallying cry for Nick Saban to circle the wagons, make sure we're doing this how I want to do it, how we've done it in the past. But they did it again. So that to me was the most surprising part. Maybe sometimes you just are who you are in big games. And you look at Alabama right now, and look, they did have the big win on the road against Arkansas. And they were able to beat A&M at home in a game with their backup quarterback. But number one, Bryce was healthy. You could tell Bryce was healthy. That looked like healthy Bryce Young. Huge win for Tennessee. And guys, let's go ahead and drop our top fives real quick. And I think we may have had some more donos in there, B.
Yeah, let's go to Carson Everett, $4.99 donation. What's up, Carson? He says, no runs and don't set up the kicker for a game-winning kick. Terrible by Bob or B.O.B., but should have locked it up after the scoop and score.
Yeah, look, Tennessee gave you the gift. They gave you the gift. They dropped the ball on the ground and handed it to you. Dallas Turner bent down, picked it up. That should have been ball game, but I think it shows you this Tennessee team is a little bit different. It wasn't fake belief. Tennessee went out and won that game. And look, I agree. You probably should have ran it and tried to go about it a little bit different way than you did. But Reichert missed the field goal. Mm-hmm. You had opportunities. Reichert not only missed the field goal, he missed it by about a parking lot to the right. Okay, that ball had no chance of going in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say you can't argue if you're an Alabama fan that, we didn't have opportunities or, this was taken away from us. No, you had opportunities. They handed you the ball, and then you had a chance to kick a field goal to win it. So at the end of the day, you didn't take advantage of those opportunities, and that's the difference between this Alabama team and this Tennessee team in 2022.
Didn't it feel like after that scoop and score,
an angle pass for a touchdown a couple plays earlier?
True.
Oh, yeah, he should have caught that one. Didn't it feel like after that scoop and score that this is the moment where we've seen this movie before? Mm-hmm. You fought your hardest, you played tight against Alabama, but late in the game, the talent level and the coaching just takes over and they find a way to beat you. That's what it felt like to me watching that scoop and score, and then Tennessee finds a way late to come back, take advantage of the missed kick. What they run they ran the double dig concept, both sides of the field. We called it 10, 2 ends, huge completions, then make
we used to call it box. Ball game. Yeah, box. We used to call it box. Yeah, you had the 2 digs, kind of like the corners of the box going up on the top. Just we were big visual when it came to that. But guys, let's drop our top fives real quick. Coney, you want to start?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I think right now we have 5 top 4 teams. So this was difficult. I was thinking about this all night last night. The Buckeyes were on a bye yesterday, and Georgia played Vanderbilt. So you could say they were kind of on a bye as well. But to me, you could put the Bulldogs and the Buckeyes 1 and 2 in any order. Right now, since Georgia played yesterday, I have Georgia 1. I have Buckeyes 2. This is all changing in real time, guys. But this is what I have this week. And then 3, 4, 5 is really where it got tough for me. I put Tennessee at 3 right now. not just for that win. I mean, that was a great win. You win by 3. It could have gone either way late in the game, but you finally got over the hump against a good Alabama team. And then you have to take into consideration the road win at LSU, especially what they were able to do against Florida yesterday, the road win at Pitt. So to me right now, I have Tennessee at 3, and then I have Michigan at 4 with the domination of Penn State. We finally gotten to see them, play some, a really good Penn State team. They rushed for 416. Corum and Edwards had 339 combined. And that leaves Clemson at 5 for me, which is tough because I think Clemson is a top 4 team right now. So if you're a Clemson fan listening, at least you can draw solace in the fact that your toughest games are pretty much behind you. You have Syracuse coming up, but you've already played your toughest games. And the top 4 teams are going to have to play another team within the top 4. Look, Michigan and Ohio, that's going to take care of itself. Tennessee and Georgia, we get that in 2 weeks. So to me, that's what I have. And then Bama, TCU, UCLA, Ole Miss, sort of all on that outside top 5 looking in right now.
Blaine, who do you got?
I love it. I'm going to go Ohio State 1. I'm going to go Tennessee 2, Georgia 3, give me Michigan 4, and Clemson 5. Probably the team I was most impressed with, I mean, if we kind of exclude Tennessee, was Michigan. I mean, just an absolute domination on both sides of the ball. I know the game was somewhat of a blowout, but it should have been bigger than that if you look at their red zone woes early in that first half. But Tennessee right now has got the best, resume in the nation for schedule. I mean, you go back Georgia. I know it's hard to put a team down who just won 55-0. But there's a couple of weeks Georgia will have a lot of questions there. But they're so, extremely good football team. But Ohio State right now, I still think you could. It's so nitpicky. You're just basically splitting hairs when you get to the top 4. It'll all weigh itself out. But my top 4 right now, I go Tennessee 2, Georgia 3, give me Michigan 4, and give me the Buckeyes at 1.
Yeah, I'm going to go quick here. Give me Georgia at 1. Give me Ohio State at 2. Give me Tennessee at 3. Give me Michigan 4. And give me Clemson 5. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I almost put TCU in here. I'm looking at their schedule. I know they got some tough games. But the way they were able to come back yesterday, Spencer Sanders and them jumped out in a big lead. I know we're going to get into it. I almost threw TCU in there. In the comments, tell us your top 5 going into week 8. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right, let's move on here in the SEC. Arkansas able to battle back behind 5 touchdown passes from the giant that is KJ Jefferson. Got a really nice win when they needed on the road out there in Provo against a BYU team that's done some things this year. I want to take my hat off to Kendall Briles and that whole staff. That's a sandwich game. That is a tough game to go play in the middle of an SEC conference slate, and it's basically been a triage tent, especially in the secondary and on defense for Arkansas. So to be able to go out there against Jaron Hall, against Romney, Pico Nakua, Christopher Brooks, all those guys, and get not only a win, but a convincing win to get you back to 4-3 and a little bit of momentum, guys, as we get to the other side. I wasn't so surprised that Arkansas won. I was surprised the way they kind of kicked their ass the whole game. You look between Rocket Sanders and everybody else, the run was so good that the pass was open. You had guys in the intermediate and the second level that were running wide open while the secondary was running with their pants down trying to find out who hung it on the flagpole. So, Cone, how surprised were you that Arkansas was able to go in there and really saute BYU out there in Utah?
With what I've seen the last few weeks, I was a little bit surprised. I thought that BYU money line was a good pick here because Arkansas has been so banged up. Obviously, this game, 5 weeks ago, we were a lot more excited about this. We thought there could be a chance where these two teams meet unbeaten. So neither have had the season that they were hoping for, but a great football game in a great atmosphere too, Jake.
Without a doubt. Blaine, you think the Hogs may be able to turn this into a little momentum here on the second half?
I wouldn't doubt it. Any Sam Pittman coach team I believe in, and this was big for them. I thought their defense played better. Their secondary has been atrocious this year with the injuries and just, not the bunch of young guys out there trying to play, but this is what happens when you have KJ Jefferson. This is what happens when you have an experienced guy at quarterback. You have an NFL running back in Rocket Sanders, and your mentality and your identity is we're going to kick your ass up front. And that's what you kind of saw with Arkansas. BYU has been a kind of a tough couple weeks, kind of a tough stretch. They're a little bit beat up too, but I'm glad to see this not only for KJ Jefferson, but for Coach Pittman, man. I've always been a fan of Coach Pittman and this Arkansas team, but they're based up front on both sides of the ball. So if you drop a 50 piece on anybody, especially a good team like BYU, you got to walk away excited.
Definitely. All right, let's go ahead and get to LSU and Florida. Guys, surprised at the amount of points in this game. I thought this one was going to be uglier than a fat kid in a skirt contest. So Jaden Daniels, 6 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 3 on the ground. He did push the ball down the field for the first time all year, and all we've done is come on the show, and I've talked to LSU fans, and I've gone on all the LSU shows that I go, and we kept saying, and even Brian Kelly came out and said, Jaden Daniels has to push the ball down the field. At one point, a week ago, Hendon Hooker had no interceptions and Jaden Daniels had no interceptions, but they went about it completely different. If you're LSU, you were getting no return on your investment because he wasn't taking advantage of the ball down the field. You weren't seeing Boutte deep. You weren't seeing Neighbors deep. You weren't seeing Besh deep. There was no threat in that third level. So that's why it felt so hard on that second and primary level, whether it was running or passing. And if you're Florida, again, you scored 35 points at home. That should be enough. But defensively, LSU did exactly what they wanted to do. And you look at balance and you go through the numbers. Williams had over 100 yards rushing. Jaden Daniels had a 350-piece passing, averaged 11 yards per completion with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Boutte goes for over 100 yards. Everybody that could have beaten you, that you cannot let beat you on that offense. They beat you exactly the way that LSU, probably the only way that LSU can score 45 points. They did it about the only way. There was a narrow path. There was a narrow runway there, and you have to give credit to LSU. But if you're Florida, at what point you didn't make adjustments, and you look in the second half, it absolutely killed you. I mean, how much man are you going to run when Jaden Daniels is able to take off when the DB's backs are turned and just run until nobody hits him for 20 yards? You didn't make adjustments.
Didn't make adjustments. And all season, Jake, we've been asking, where's Kayshon Boutte? Well, there he is. You hit the nail on the head. Over 100 yards receiving. That helped a lot. Huge win for LSU.
Blaine.
This game was so much surprising to me. If you'd have told me there'd been 80 points scored in this game, and I would have said go buy a lottery ticket because you got a better chance of hitting that. But I'm glad to see this for LSU. And the biggest thing for me was the run game with them. I mean, you're averaging 5 yards a carry. I know Jaden Daniels been your main rusher, but you somewhat controlled the line of scrimmage, and that's a great thing for LSU to see. I knew this LSU team would grow. These guys are full of athletes on both sides of the ball. I don't think Florida played bad, but you just can't play a 2-half game. I mean, our 1-quarter game in the fourth quarter is about the closest they came to coming back in this game. Anthony Richardson did great. I mean, running the ball, he always does. I would like to see more of the passing game, but he's going to grow into that. But I think this was a big win for Brian Kelly, kind of coming off what happened last week against Tennessee. LSU needed this, but Florida bounced back. I still think Billy's doing a lot better job than I thought he would, so Florida would be fine.
Yeah, no, and look, LSU's 5-2 right now. Yeah. Is it the prettiest 5-2? No, but they are 5-2. Florida goes to 4-3. You saw some things maybe in the locker room getting posted on Instagram that they're looking at between a few Florida players. So this was kind of that, more than halfway through the year mark, that extra hump to give you some momentum. But it seems like, too, every time LSU goes down to Florida, they beat them. Whether it's Marco Wilson throwing a shoe, whether it's Jaden Daniels throwing a fit and scoring 6 touchdowns, it just seems like LSU has Florida's number on the road. But speaking about having their number, guys, Kentucky against Mississippi State. This was the biggest surprise of the whole day for me. Tennessee beating Alabama was not nearly as surprising as Kentucky beating Mississippi State by 10 and Mississippi State only scoring 17 points. Now, we've talked about Mark Stoops and how he's upgraded the profile of Kentucky, straight out of the Beyonce playbook. But this Kentucky team isn't super explosive on offense, and the defense is good, not great. It was shocking to me to be able to watch Kentucky control the air raid, and Mike, it was like Mike Leach and Will Rogers and them could just never really get started from the jump. It was like there was no rhythm. They weren't able to go fast. They weren't able to really control the line of scrimmage when they went slow. The best thing for them, like it is when the air raid struggles, was the back out of the backfield and the modified runs. You got to take your hat off. I mean, Chris Rodriguez coming back was obviously huge for Kentucky. This was a very big win for Kentucky, and I think it does show you how big of a difference it is when Will Levis is not in there as opposed to when he is, and not just for the offense. See, the common misconception is, the offense, Will Levis isn't in there, so they're not going to be as confident. Well, yes, defensively as well, that has something to do with it. Knowing that Will Levis is out there, hey, knowing at any point in time on offense, we can score. Every play is huge. Not that they weren't playing hard when Will Levis wasn't able to play against South Carolina, but it does give you that little bit of a shot in the arm of, guys, all we got to do is get Will the ball back, and we believe in this guy enough to go do it. So that was my most surprising finish of the day. I had Mississippi State going 2-6. In the SEC, that was the one I felt really kind of the worst about. And looking at it, this was kind of why I thought, because they hit these ruts sometimes, but they've been playing a lot better than what I thought they were going to this year. But how shocked were you, Cone, that Kentucky was able to win by double digits and hold Mississippi State to 17 points?
I was very surprised, and I thought if Kentucky did win the football game, it would be more high scoring. Chris Rodriguez went for 197. I'll tell you what surprised me even more: 6 false start penalties for Mississippi State. You know, that Kentucky crowd was really into it, and of the 17 points you're talking about, 7 of those came with that Emmanuel Forbes pick 6 late in the game on 4th down. So really, Kentucky even held Mississippi State more in check than the score makes it seem. You guys know how I feel about Mike Leach, man. He's a national treasure. I love this guy. I hope he coaches at Mississippi State or just coaches anywhere for a long, long time. But this always happens, right? He's going to come out and he's going to beat 2, maybe even 3 teams that he quote unquote shouldn't, and then they're going to lose 2 or 3 games that they quote unquote should win. And so I don't know what to expect from Mississippi State moving forward the rest of the season, because it's, they went down to LSU. I thought they could win that game. They didn't. They'll go on the road to Kentucky. They lost that football game. So if Will Levis stays healthy for Kentucky, I still think that they can do some damage in the East. And then Mississippi State, look, I think Alabama has them next week, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. That's one of those ones where it's like, would it surprise you if Mississippi State goes on the road and beats Kentucky, but then somehow figures out a way to beat Alabama? This is what Mike Leach does.
Yeah. Loses to Kentucky and finds a way to beat Alabama. We all know exactly what you meant.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
We do got a question from a Sad Fins fan. Do you think Will Levis's talents will translate to the NFL? Here's my thing with Will Levis. He has all the talent in the world. He's a big guy. He can move and he can throw while he's moving. I think a lot of it for Will is mental. I think, and look, this team at Kentucky this year is not the team from last year. He doesn't have Wan'Dale Robinson, who was a great compliment off Josh Ali and obviously Chris Rodriguez. This team is built a little bit different offensively. Don't let that make you think that Will Levis is worse than he was last year. I think he continues to improve. I think he's taken some of these young receivers and elevated them. Again, remember, they didn't have Chris Rodriguez for the first 3-4 weeks of the season. Now he's able to come back, really give you that extra oomph in the run game to set up that play action. I think Will Levis will be a good NFL quarterback. I think he's going to be a little bit of a better version of what Mitch Trubisky is. I don't think he is a elite quarterback in the NFL, but I think he'll be a little bit more of what people thought Mitch Trubisky was going to be.
Bust. If
Bust?
you take him in the first round, the kid's a bust. I'll tell you that right now. You take him in the first round, the kid's a bust. I mean, if anything,
like
Mitch
bust
Trubisky,
how?
I'll take. But the Will Levis, I mean, right now, I know he's banged up. I mean, I thought he broke his toe, separated his shoulder, hurt his ankle. I mean, he'll learn not to take hits. But some of his throws, he's still missing. We go back to last year. I know he had Wan'Dale, but he still missed a lot of passes we expected him to fix this year, and it still hasn't got a lot better, at least to my being a top 5 pick. You're projected the number 4 pick in the draft. There's no way I'm taking that. I'm definitely taking Hendon Hooker before you, to be honest. But I think the kid will be a bust if you take him the first round. But this was a Kentucky game written all over it. I mean, you're Mississippi State. I don't know how you're going to win the game with 22 rushing yards, to be honest. I mean, you're not going to win. You're not going to win.
I don't see first round pick when I see Will Levis either. But then again, I thought the same thing about Justin Herbert, at Oregon. The big kid, athletic, strong arm. Will that necessarily translate to being a great passer in the NFL? And that one sure has worked out. So if he could take a similar leap as a Justin Herbert or maybe even a Josh Allen type who develops once he gets into the NFL, then certainly, I think it's possible. I'm with you, Blaine. I don't see a top 5 pick right now when I see the kid.
I saw he's projected number 4 on McShay's board.
I saw that too.
4.
I saw that too.
You could pick up a handful of quarterbacks almost who I think right now are better than Will Levis. I mean, and half of them are in the SEC. I mean, I know Will Rogers might have lost this game and looked bad, but I'm still taking Will Rogers over him.
Yeah, I thought that was one of Will's worst games yesterday, but I agree with you. He can sure spin it.
Okay, let's go to some of these donations here. Let's go to Sunny H, $1.99 donation. He says, Cones, woo, just earned some money. Thanks, guys. Little Ric Flair for you right there, Dave.
Ooh, woo, nature boy.
I love it. Let's go to Brad David, a little $4.99 donation. He says, do y'all think Deion Sanders' strong personality will prevent him from getting a better job? I don't know if you saw that video on Twitter, but it's Deion Sanders. No, I don't.
You talking about the one where he was telling the guy to interview him in a different way?
Yeah.
I saw that.
What do you think, Dave? You think that'll stop him from getting a big time job?
For some schools, but I think other schools will like that, right? I mean, for any school that would say, hey, we don't want Deion Sanders here because it's just too big of a personality, or maybe he'll go rogue. I think another school would look at that and say, that's exactly what we want here. I think, you're big on him getting the Auburn job, aren't you?
Yeah, come on. I want a guy on the Aflac commercials. I want someone sitting there right next to Saban. We'll recruit a lot better. The only thing he has to do is hire some good coordinators, and we should be okay. I mean, it could be anything worse than now.
And that's what it comes down to. As an athletic director, you want to know exactly what you're getting from a guy every day. You don't want something to pop up in the media that you're not prepared for. But the flip side of that is a big personality gets what? Big time recruits.
So it's either him or Kiffin, the guy who just beat Auburn.
All right, guys. Sorry, had a little technical difficulties there. I think it was the Russians or the Chinese. I don't know which one to blame, so I'm going to blame both of them. Did we move on to the Big Ten yet?
Not yet. We were talking about if Deion Sanders' personality will keep him from getting a big-time coaching job.
I think it's got to be the right fit, but I don't think Deion Sanders is going to leave Jackson State for anything else than Florida State right now. I mean, he's the same one who went on there and was like, I'm HBCU for life. Like, that's for life. And the only one that would make sense is if Florida State, or the one that everybody would understand, is if Florida State came calling. So appreciate that question there, Brad. All right, guys, let's go ahead to the Big Ten. We got to start with Cone's alma mater, the Michigan Wolverines. First half, Penn State stayed in it. I got to give the defense some credit in the red zone. They really bowed up, or kept Michigan to a couple field goals early to keep them in that game. And then you could see what happened. Sean Clifford takes off on his own read. Nobody gets the quarterback. He takes it inside the 5. They're able to score. And then you have the defensive touchdown that gives them the lead. But you just had the feeling, Cone, watching this game, that Michigan was dominating this game in every aspect except just punching the ball in the end zone inside the 10-yard line. And after a short space of time, gravity was going to take effect. And that's what we saw in the second half. But what stood out to you the most about the way Michigan was able to dominate a Penn State team that had, a quarterback as veteran as there is and had been undefeated coming in?
Controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, not just Michigan's offense, but also on defense. But speaking about the offense, the time of possession, that surprised me too. I mean, we had the ball for 40 something minutes. It was incredible to watch. I did say watch for the turnover battle, and then that pick 6 that JJ McCarthy threw, that led to the game being closer in the first half than it should have been. But they rushed for 416. Like I said, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards went for a combined 339. That combo is incredible. I think one concern is JJ McCarthy's inaccuracy in the short game this time. We've seen him be inaccurate throwing the football downfield. In the bubble game, he missed a couple keys that were bad football throws to me. And why that's important is because as these teams like Penn State start to sell out on the run with Blake Corum, you're going to want to get the ball out of your hand to Roman Wilson and to Ronnie Bell quicker. That's going to be such a lethal play off of the run game that Michigan has. So those passes need to be a little crisper to me. I think he was better in the second half on that, but him throwing on the run is so impressive to me. I mean, the kid can really sling the football on the run. So a huge win for Michigan just to dominate the game like that, and especially control the line of scrimmage.
Without a doubt.
I love it. Well, the thing about it now we can talk about, I mean, it's not that Michigan hadn't played anybody. All right, because I think Penn State was a legitimate top 10 team. I mean, they physically dominated everybody they played, and Michigan physically dominated them on both sides of the ball. And you go back to it, I mean, the first half of this game, if Michigan could put the ball in the end zone, this score would have been a lot worse. I thought Penn State did bow up a little in the red zone. I think Michigan might have kicked 2 field goals when they should have scored touchdowns, but I'm just so impressed. I think Corum has to be, obviously, right now, Heisman talk, at least a Heisman finalist. I don't think
Top
we just
3.
put all quarterbacks up there. This kid's special. Even y'all's backup's extremely good. But my biggest thing was just y'all's D-line got after it, man. Y'all got after it, and that's going to be so big because half the time I get to the problem is when I watch Michigan, all right, I just compare them to Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's what I do when I watch Michigan. What can they do against Ohio State? And what did y'all do last year? Y'all physically whooped Ohio State. And it's starting to roll a little bit, that ball, and watching, well, Michigan could somewhat do this again, because if y'all can control, to beat a team like Ohio State, you have to control the line of scrimmage. And if you can do that, if you can turn around and hand the ball off instead of throwing it 40 times a game with a new quarterback, you have a chance to win. But I was super impressed with Michigan just physically dominating Penn State.
Yeah, I want to say this too. I do think Michigan this year, and it goes back to Harbaugh having to make the decision with J.J. McCarthy. Now, if Michigan's able to get to that playoff game, you have a quarterback that can make special plays against special defenses that you just couldn't last year. Last year, everything had to be blocked up right. The route had to be run perfectly. The running back had to hit it exactly where it was supposed to, and the play had to go exactly like the play designed. But it seems like with J.J. McCarthy, his level of athleticism, you can get away with broken plays now. Not only that, you can turn a broken play into a beautiful play. And those are, when you see the teams that have beaten, just for example, the Alabamas in the past for the Natty, who did they have? Even Stetson Bennett has a little witch in him outside of the pocket, extending the play, being able to run. But Clemson, with Deshaun Watson, guys that could run, guys that could extend the play, and everything didn't have to go perfect. It seems to me that this Michigan team can win even when the play doesn't go perfect. And if you're Penn State, this is just who you are now. Let's be honest. I asked the question on social media during the week, why is nobody talking more about Penn State? And after looking at it, just like every year, Penn State builds up their profile, and the first chance they get to make a big move, they lose it. Right now, that is who Penn State is. Penn State is like the girl you see that just in the club, in the bar, whatever, who just put makeup all over herself, like, and from far away looked good. And for the first hour, you're trying to get her attention. But then she comes closer and you realize she basically just splashed her face in a bowl of makeup, and it's not real. What's underneath isn't as beautiful as what we thought. Penn State is just overrated. That's just who they are in big games. I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy, but like we said, if there wasn't tough love, there'd be no love at all on this side. So I'm sorry for Penn State. You paid James Franklin everything you guys had in the vault, and you're going to just have basically the same year out. And I know they've fallen off a cliff, no pun intended, the past couple of years. But, I mean, this team continues to just underperform in big moments. If the shoe fits, wear it. If the dress fits, wear it. If the hat fits, definitely wear it. But
they'll get some more opportunities this season. I mean, they still have the Buckeyes ahead of them. They still have some big games. They're going to have Michigan State. So I think that they can still finish strong, and maybe they pull an upset or two in some of those games. Back to you talking about J.J. McCarthy being lethal with the run game. I'll tell you something else we saw yesterday for really the first time was him pulling it on the zone read in key moments, which is going to be, I mean, that is such a huge factor if teams start to sell out on Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Being able for J.J. McCarthy to pull that zone read, especially on third and short or second and short, to keep that football and get first down. So we saw that yesterday, and that's another wrinkle I think Michigan will add.
For sure. All right, let's keep moving here. Purdue's able to beat Nebraska. Another nice win for Purdue. You're looking at that Big Ten West cone. They looked a little bit out of it early. I know Syracuse is in the ACC, but the way they lost that game and that kind of bad stretch they went through, but it looks like they've righted the ship a little bit. Coach Brom and them over there with a nice win. I know Nebraska doesn't have a true head coach, but they're playing with nothing to lose. Michigan State, Mel Tucker, they needed this one. Beats Wisconsin by 6. Michigan State has struggled. Jim Leonard's the interim coach after Paul Chryst was let go at Wisconsin. And Jim, I think, is going to be the head coach at Wisconsin at the end of the day. But nobody needed this more than Michigan State. Speaking about extensions, you just gave Mel Tucker all the money that you guys had too, and it looked like you'd fallen off a cliff. It really looked like without Kenneth Walker, it's amazing how mortal Peyton Thorne and the rest of that offense was. We know about the defense last year, leading the league in sacks, but being the worst team in the league on third down. That's incredible, and that is true. Dub Jr., we're going to get to Ole Miss. I have it written down here in 1 second, but just want to make sure we throw that out there. Before we get to Illinois, though, Cone, Auburn and Ole Miss, I want to hit this really quick. You knew Ole Miss was going to win the game. Defensively, they kind of slept through it. Auburn was able to run the ball against Ole Miss about better than they have against anybody this year. Tank Bigsby was able to put up big numbers, but Ole Miss just continues to win. I mean, do we think this Ole Miss team is elite? I don't. Do I think this Ole Miss team is one that's going to challenge to win the West truly? I don't. But Lane Kiffin has got Ole Miss in the limelight and relevant again, and they're undefeated. Quinshon Judkins, hell of a player. That dude's going to be a 3-year player at Ole Miss and then gone. But it seemed like Jackson Dart in the run game really stepped up, because what was our knock against Jackson Dart? He doesn't see linebackers in pass coverage. I mean, you go watch the tape on Jackson Dart. He can see the safeties. He can see the nickel, who I guess you could consider a linebacker. I always considered him a DB, especially when you're playing it packaged. But it seems to me like Ole Miss is a good quality football team, guys. The question is, how good? How quality? What is their ceiling? And can this team beat Alabama?
Go ahead, Blaine.
Yes, I do think. I mean, right now with Alabama's defense, I mean, I don't know. Really, you can look at a lot of teams in the SEC and say, I don't know how they don't have a chance. I mean, you saw the difference between one coach getting a quarterback out of the transfer portal, another one not. And Ole Miss outplayed Auburn and outcoached them. I mean, you go back to that onside kick. What a call by Lane Kiffin. First of all, just an absolute beautiful call. And you can tell this to film is the way Auburn was playing back. Kickoff return didn't make sense. But this Ole Miss team, it's always this Ole Miss team is defense. It comes down to defense to me. How good is your defense? If it's been in break defense, I understand you're getting turnovers to a certain extent. I can't really use a barometer when you play against an Auburn team with a quarterback who really can't really throw the ball or go through progressions. I know he looks somewhat better. But this defense for Ole Miss, especially in the box, what I'm most worried about. Lane with offense, I'll never be worried about. I'll never be worried about it ever, because he's just an absolute guru when it comes to schematics of the offensive game. But it was a good win for them. But I still, their stretch right now is going to be tough. They still got A&M, Arkansas, LSU, Bama. So I still wait to see they play a kind of an upper echelon team in the SEC to figure it out.
Okay.
I continue to be so impressed with the run game from Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
That's what always surprised me. You think of Lane Kiffin, you think of quarterbacks throwing the football around the yard and getting a lot of yardage, but it's the run game to me. Yesterday, 3 rushers with over 100 yards. 3 rushers. That's top-notch football. And when I look at this Ole Miss team, I don't think that they're in that top 5 to me right now. I put them down. I think that they're more in line with like a TCU battling it out for that last undefeated spot. The question, guys, is would you put Ole Miss right now unbeaten ahead of a 1-loss Bama if you were ranking that next 6 through 10?
No.
I would. Where do they play that game? That's when Dub Jr., where do they play that game? Do they play that game in Oxford? That's the biggest question. Because if they do, Alabama's going to go get 30 penalties.
I have it here. They play at Ole Miss.
Oh my goodness!
After playing at
can we
LSU.
go through? Let's go through Ole Miss's schedule real quick, guys. Okay. Really quick.
All right, you ready? Here it is.
Yep.
All right, so they just beat Auburn. Now they go to LSU.
Ooh.
They go to Texas A&M. Ooh. They have Alabama at home.
Okay.
They go to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then the Egg Bowl is in Oxford.
Yeah, I don't think you're going undefeated through that stretch. If you were to lose one game through that stretch, I mean, you might as well start building a statue of Lane Kiffin now. Not that Ole Miss it couldn't beat Alabama. That's not why I'm saying that. But you got to go on the road to those 3 games at LSU, at Arkansas, at A&M. I mean, I know Haynes King is in there now since Max Johnson hurt his hand, but I just don't see Ole Miss being able to survive that 3 games. You want to go 2-1. You really just hope for 2-1, Dub Jr. That's what I would be praying for. All right, guys, going to quicken up the pace a little bit. Going to pull a Josh Heupel here. Illinois beats Minnesota. I just want to give another shout out to Brett Bielema. I've been gassing these guys up every week, and they keep coming through for the kid. I'm an idiot for taking the under at 38 for the plus money. It hit for 39. I should have just took in Illinois straight up to win at plus 150. I knew I should have done it. Looked in the mirror, looked at myself, made a deal with myself, ended up lying to myself. And you know what? I'll never forgive myself for that. So we're having, it was a split argument earlier. But look, Chase Brown, we got to start talking a little bit about Heisman for this guy. I know Illinois is not going to probably push for the playoff, but they are 6-1. They're going to be a top 20 team. All Chase Brown does is get yards. Had 180 on the ground yesterday, 53 receiving yards and a touchdown. The dude is a butter factory, Lando legs, whatever you want to call it. Every time he gets out there, they have a great package for him. Ryan Walters, the DC at Illinois, up-and-coming superstar. Guys, did you know that nobody had scored a touchdown against Illinois at home until yesterday?
Wow.
They finally did it. That's how dominant this Illinois defense has been. They took a few shots from Minnesota, who is a quality ball club, even though they've kind of pulled a Post Malone and fallen apart here lately. But I think Illinois is a legitimate team that when we look at the West, guys, the Big Ten West, it looks like Illinois and Purdue right now. And I need to look to see when those two play each other. I'm sure they do.
I have the schedule right here. I'm so impressed by this Illinois team. It's been top 5 statistically in defense for most of the season. And now look at this, boys. They go to Nebraska. All right, that game's winnable. They have Michigan State at home. That game's winnable. And then you have a back-to-back where you host Purdue. And then they go to Michigan. Now, keep in mind, remember we were pointing out, Purdue doesn't have Michigan. Purdue doesn't have the Buckeyes. And then Illinois will finish at Northwestern. So, I don't know. I'm starting to feel more and more like Illinois could really win that side of the Big Ten, fellas.
Yep. I feel like do we have another donation, Blaine, we hadn't called out?
Yeah, we got a couple in here.
Let's do it.
So let's go. Justin Decker with a $5 donation. What's up,
JD?
Justin? He says, as an Auburn fan, I enjoy the Bama fans crying and whining just as much when Auburn wins.
Well, that's what makes the rivalries great. It's the truth. It's the human condition. Seeing somebody I hate being upset makes me happy. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. You know what? When I see Xi Jinping and he's looking upset, that makes me feel good inside. When I see Vladimir Putin, he looks a little bit distracted, maybe a little bit nervous. That gets me excited. I want him to be let down. I want it to hurt for you. I want you to wake up asking why. I'm going to be honest. I love my fiance very much, but literally, she woke up this morning, rolled over, and looked at me and said, "Why? Why did Alabama lose to Tennessee?" And I looked at her and said, "Because God is good. Because he's good, Reed." Yeah, anyway, no, I didn't say that. I said, listen, can I do anything for you? Well, it's good. Guys, let's be honest, okay? Number one, if you're an Alabama fan, don't get upset. You've won a ton. You've won a ton. You can't look. This isn't a Dylan got Hulk hands and I got a rawhide wallet situation. Okay, you've gotten Hulk hands every single year for like the last 15 years. So, but I think it's an overall picture. We have more teams now that are capable of winning than we've had in a long, long time, which is so good for college football. And timing is everything in life, right? Timing is everything. As we move to what looks like a 12-team playoff, having more parity now is going to only make those games so much better. It's going to be absolutely delicious. But Blaine, do we have another dono before we move to the Big 12?
Yeah, let's go to Malcolm Martin Coney, $1.99 donation. Do you think Bama will still end up in the playoff?
Man, I don't see it right now, and it's not necessarily because of this one loss. It's just because it feels like on the road, they have not been playing solid football. But we saw that last season as well, right? Remember that second half at Florida? Things kind of fell apart there. They still got to win. I don't know. When I see this Alabama team, I don't see a team that's necessarily going to make the playoffs or compete for a national championship the way they have. But I did look up something today. Of Nick Saban's 7 national championships, only 2 of those was he undefeated. 5 of those were one-loss teams. Maybe this is that one loss. Maybe they still win the West. They go to the SEC championship game, beat Georgia like they did last year, or maybe they'll get a rematch with Tennessee, win that one, and go, and Nick Saban puts another ring on his finger. Like, guys, it is entirely possible. But, Jake, I had the same conversation with Darby Lou that you had with Reed. I said, I know this loss hurts right now, but this is good for college football. And now it'll actually mean something, again, when you beat Tennessee, because you haven't known what it's like to lose to Tennessee in this rivalry. So this is good for college football. I still think Alabama can obviously, Blaine, win the national championship. You can never count this man out. You can never count this program out. But they just don't look like, with the penalties and, I don't know the status of Bryce Young. He looked healthy yesterday, but one hit on that shoulder could knock him out, and this is an entirely different team.
Are we just, Blaine, are we talking ourselves into to something and then it's going to happen just like it did last year? Are we getting, it doesn't feel that way. All right. But are we getting, you remember when Bama lost to A&M? That was a little bit different, kind of the way that went down. And obviously that Bama team was different, but are we over here getting excited and just going to absolutely have exactly what happened last year? Cause right now, if you look, it's setting up very similarly to last year. Bama took that loss in the middle of the season. Georgia's undefeated. Georgia gets past Tennessee and they got them at home. They're going to the SEC championship. I don't think Alabama's able to escape the rest of the season without another regular season loss. But if they do and they beat Georgia, they will be going to the playoff, and Georgia will be going to the playoff. And if Michigan and Ohio State are both undefeated, It's going to be very, very interesting, guys, if it comes down to a similar situation as last year, but all of a sudden, Clemson's undefeated. Our TCU is undefeated. UCLA, which they're the last hope in the Pac-12. Yep. We're going to get to that after USC pulled off the Shaggy and Scooby and Velma pulled off the mask of USC, who would have gotten away with it as a top 10 team if it wasn't for those meddling kids from Utah and Cameron Rising.
Yeah, a couple of things here. One, I know 3 guys who were talking about USC that they didn't believe in their defense and caught some flack. I know 3 guys
hella flack.
All on the show. And 2, the one thing I tweeted after this game was over is like Bama will probably still make the playoffs. I watched Auburn beat Alabama, lose the SEC championship, then watch Alabama win the national championship. So I'm never, ever going to count these guys out of making the playoffs, but it's going to come down to the field. All right. What one-loss team are you going to pick? Because Michigan, Ohio State's going to have one.
Yeah.
I mean, if Georgia doesn't have one, then you go into the realm of, well, Bama's loss was out on the road at a number 6 Tennessee team to maybe Ohio State was lost. Is it at Ohio State or at Michigan this year?
It's at Ohio State.
Yeah, it's in the horseshoe, man.
Okay, so then Michigan's loss would be to a one Ohio State team. So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. I think Clemson's not going to lose a game.
Yeah.
Syracuse is the only chance. Other than that, it's going to get interesting comes down the stretch.
I saw the tweet yesterday about Alabama, and it was, you're good when the entire country is pulling for you to lose. And that's just how dominant they've been. Here's my question for you guys. If you're an Alabama fan, would you rather see Georgia or Tennessee in the SEC championship? Because it's hard to beat Alabama, period. It's really hard to beat them twice. Would you want to get your revenge shot on a neutral site against Tennessee or try your hand at Georgia?
I'd want to get my revenge shot on a neutral side against Tennessee if I were Alabama to try and restore order, in my opinion. I do want to say Ken Foster says Illinois sucks. The Big Ten is overrated and overhyped because you morons fall for the same crap. Have you seen Illinois lately? This isn't even just about anybody else other than Illinois. Illinois has typically been a doormat here lately. So compared to the other Illinois teams, this team does not suck. He is one of the best one, Ken. That take sucks that Illinois sucks. But is Illinois going to win the national championship? No. Is the Big Ten the best conference, in my opinion, in the country? No. I think it's the second best. The Big 12 has made a good argument this year. I think a little bit on that when you look at the depth. But then you look at the Big Ten East, I could make the argument the Big Ten East is the best division in college football. I mean, you just look at the NFL draft, Ken. I say the same thing about when people make fun of the SEC. Well, look at the NFL draft. Who's second in the NFL draft? It's the Big Ten. So you can have your own thoughts on Illinois. You say the Big Ten has one decent team, the Buckeyes, and they're overhyped every year. Ken, they're one of the only teams outside of the SEC team that's won a national championship in the last 15 years. If that's the case, then everybody else sucks outside the 2 or 3 teams that have won it, Ken.
Ken, I think this is about something else.
Yeah, Ken, are you all right, buddy?
I heard about something, Ken. It's okay. We're in the trust tree. Just let it go.
You can be honest with us, bud. Like, who hurt you? Are you an Iowa fan?
It's something.
It's something. Somebody hurt you. Show me on the doll where Crane and Co. touched you. All right, here, let's continue to move on. Oklahoma yesterday. Dylan Gabriel comes back. You knew the offense was going to look different than when they got shut out last year. Now, I thought maybe this game, since it was 2 really high-profile offenses, Josh Bean does have experience for Kansas, but Dylan Gabriel coming back, they have been slow at times for Dylan Gabriel. I thought maybe this game may start out slow, but that was not the case at all. They literally kicked the ball off, and everybody started scoring touchdowns. I mean, the over was almost hit by halftime, and it was like 77. And it was a great game. Oklahoma ended up taking over there at the end. I thought them being able to run the ball was the difference. Kansas kind of struggled a little bit. Josh Bean tried to create stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a nice win for Oklahoma. Kansas probably going to be knocked out of the top 25. But, guys, like I said a couple weeks ago, Kansas has already won.
House money.
Kansas has already won. I mean, it's the truth. You've already won the season. And Ulysses Cameron, we've been talking about Tennessee the whole time, dog. Let's keep going.
Hey, I wanted to say one thing. Dylan Gabriel, 21 for 29, 304. That was at halftime. That was at halftime. Eric Gray, 10 rushes for 124 and 2 TDs. That was at halftime. Like, they were just putting on a clinic.
It was like going to a Globetrotters game.
Yeah, Oklahoma fans, now you can calm down. calm down. Back away from that ledge a little bit. Back away.
Yeah.
Just calm
Scoot
down.
back.
It's going to take some time. You're figuring out that's a good win against a good Kansas team. I know he's a backup quarterback. That kid's not bad. Just calm down. Venables got y'all. All right? Just let it happen. Y'all want some donos?
Yeah. Hit a couple donuts. And look, we may talk 5 minutes of baseball here, okay? I may get a little bit of Brave stuff off my chest, but the Dodgers did lose as well, and the Mets weren't even in it. So I'm not as pissed as what I would be. And Ken said, you touched me. Emotionally, Ken. Emotionally. In the eyes of the law, that's a big difference between me touching you emotionally than physically, but we love you, buddy. All right. Go ahead, Blaine.
Talk to my lawyer, Ken. All right. Let's go. Jordan Kilgo, $1.99 donation. He says, is Tennessee's offensive line top 5 in the SEC? Yes, sir, it is.
Well, look, I want to say Tennessee has a good offensive line. All right. But that system they run, it's a lot easier on an offensive lineman if you're in shape. Okay. You have to be in shape to operate at that pace. But think about it. The defense is pretty much worn out once you get into the third quarter. So you're able to push them around a little bit more, but the ball, you're getting rid of the ball so quickly most of the time. Because what does Tennessee do when they start going that NASCAR pace, right? They're in the shotgun, typically 10 personnel. They like to go doubles. They're spitting the bubble screen. They're spitting the now. They're spitting the slant. They're spitting the hitch. And then they hit you deep. So what is the defensive line used to seeing? Well, they're going to give inside zone. They're trying to give me play action. I have to believe it now because they do have a legitimate running game. That's one of the reasons they were able to score those points at will like they were against Alabama was because of balance. But it's a ton of short game. That's what Tennessee's really doing. It's a ton of short game passes with some runs, a mobile quarterback, and then they hit you deep. So as an offensive lineman, you're facing defensive linemen that are already tired. They're having to move laterally the whole game. You're trying to run 120 plays a game, and you're getting rid of the ball quick. So it's a great system to be in if you're an offensive lineman, but you have to be in shape, and that's the truth.
All right, let's go to Cap Echo, a $4.99 donation. Appreciate it, Cap, for you not capping on this donation. He says, when Penn State's rush defense overrated, or is Michigan O-line just that elite, David Cohn?
I don't think Penn State was overrated because I was looking at a common game, right? And that's Auburn. They went into the Plains and beat Auburn as badly as Georgia beat them in between the hedges. So I think Penn State, and we saw what Penn State was able to do on the road again against a good Purdue team. So I don't think Penn State was overrated. I don't think they played their best football yesterday. I was surprised with how Michigan was able to dominate the line of scrimmage. But I think this Michigan team, especially up front, is very solid. And this is Michigan's identity. They want to run the football. I was telling you guys this. You think of Jim Harbaugh as someone who wants to just throw the football around and who used to coach Andrew Luck and all this stuff. Michigan wants to run the football. They want this to be their DNA. It's completely different from, say, what the Buckeyes do when you're going to see C.J. Stroud throw it all around the yard and put up 70 points. Michigan wants to control the time of possession. They did that yesterday. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They did that yesterday.
All right, Dub Jr., $2 donation. He says, y'all forgot to mention my 7-0 Ole Miss Rebels.
That's what, we talked about it after, though. We talk about it after. Dub Jr. knows what's up.
Dylan Meadows, $4.99 donation. Appreciate it, Dylan. He says, ranked Tennessee #1, wins against ranked Pitt, Florida, LSU, and now Bama. No more questions or photos, please, and thank you.
You got a legitimate argument. I mean, you got a legitimate argument. Who's beating a better schedule?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. Another team we're going to talk about in a second, you look at TCU. TCU has some pretty nice wins as well. Georgia obviously going on the road and beating Oregon. That win looks better each week that Oregon continues to play better with Bo Nix out there. But, Dylan, I don't think in the past you would be talking out of your ass. Like, nobody would believe you. This season, though, with what we've seen from Tennessee, offense, defense, and special teams, winning games in multiple ways, being able to go on the road and watch that offense have success, you should beat your chest a little bit, but logically, it makes sense. It's hard to argue against it right now. You can say whatever you want about Tennessee in the past, but this team, snapshot in time right now, is as good as I've seen Tennessee since I can remember, since Gerald Riggs was toting the rock, and all 19 of the Clausens were going through there. So I think you can legitimately say that. Dylan. But guys, I do want to move. Let's stay in the Big 12 here. We've hit the SEC, hit the Big 10. We'll again, you throw a donation, we're going to answer the question. But TCU, huge comeback win, guys, 43-40 over Spencer Sanders and Oklahoma State. God, this weekend just delivered, man. I mean, it just absolutely delivered. It was a Papa John's weekend. It was definitely not a DiGiorno weekend. This was delivery, buddy. But when you look, guys, we talk about the Heisman, right? Max Duggan, is he a guy we have to start throwing in there a little bit because he is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country that really nobody's still talking about. And nobody's really talking about TCU. It kind of reminds me of, you remember when like Jake Locker and Washington made it in the playoff and people were talking about Washington, but everybody was expecting them to lose, but they just never lost and then got in the playoff and then got shoved in a proverbial locker by Bama. But they made the playoff. When I look at this TCU team, Blaine, can one of y'all bring up TCU, the rest of their schedule, please? This is a team that I think is more complete than what people think. I know they gave up 40 to Oklahoma State. But Oklahoma State, I mean, with Spencer Sanders and the guys that operate in that offense, it's not shocking to see Oklahoma State score. But they found a way to win with the aliens at receiver that they have. Again, I said it on Friday's live show. Remember, guys, we go live 7:30 to 9 Eastern every weekday morning. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Yeah, we do got more hackers than the middle of the Swordfish movie, but we'll get that fixed in the chat. But guys, when you look at TCU, is this a team, Blaine? Read through their schedule. Do we think TCU can actually go undefeated and win the Big 12 here?
All right, yeah, let's walk through it. All right, this coming up weekend, they got Kansas State at home. It's going to be a tough game. Ranked 17. You go to West Virginia with a big win. Then you got Texas Tech at home. Then you go to Texas. All right. Then you go to Baylor. All right. Then you have Iowa State at home. So we're really going to figure out down the stretch about this this TCU team. I mean, your offense is there, but the defense is worrisome. All right. That's what it is. But it's the Big 12, guys. It's the Big 12. So we'd be surprised, realistically, if they run through the Big 12 and win it out. No.
Hey, well, the Big 12 is a defensive conference now. Bite your tongue. All right, bite your tongue.
You're right.
They made that switch. No, Blaine, all joking aside, I'd probably give them about a 25-30% chance to be able to run through that gauntlet. The game's on the road. You know Baylor's going to be chomping at the bit, but Baylor doesn't have Blake Shapen anymore. You do have a backup quarterback. Can TCU just go find ways to outscore them? Because this isn't 2021 Baylor. We're watching teams be able to move the ball on Baylor pretty much at will when they want to. Even Iowa State had some success against them. But, Cone, speaking of Iowa State, this was a game, Iowa State and Texas. It's when you go against a 3-3-5 team, okay, it's like the defense's version of the triple option, right? You see a bunch of 4 down. You see some 3 down that becomes 4 down. But with that 3-3-5 stack, it's something you don't have a lot of time to prepare for. It's way different. It's like when the wind blows through a knife store. It can kill you from any point. You don't know left, right, middle. They can bring anything from any place. Hell, they'll drop somebody out of a helicopter halfway through the third quarter with that defense. So anytime you can survive it and win the game, it slows down the game. It mucks up the game. And Iowa State jumped Texas a little bit. But, guys, I had the over at 51. Was feeling great about it the whole game. It was ugly early. Texas didn't score in the first quarter, 14-7 at half. You know Iowa State's a little bit offensively challenged, especially through the air with Hunter Decker, who's typically an upper decker when it comes to passing the ball. But he found the rhythm yesterday. You like that one, Blaine? But the under did hit, thank goodness, under 51, because one more touchdown would have got me. But Texas survives. Quinn Ewers looked a little shaky early, missed some throws, but made the plays when they needed them. And Bijan Robinson, guys, I've seen a lot of really good backs. This guy is going to make a lot of money. I know we talked about Jahmyr Gibbs, and he had a great game against Tennessee. But Bijan Robinson just does. You talk about cutting. You talk about lateral cuts. I don't know how his knees didn't explode on one play against Iowa State. He literally cut at a right angle, like 100% at a right angle. I don't know how you tackle him. I don't, I think you have to send a strongly worded letter and hope that he takes it to heart. But Texas finds a way, guys, and they continue to improve. And Sark doing a good job. You just had to get by that one, even though it was at home.
Man, who stepped up, Jake? Bijan Robinson, 135 on 28 carries. Hey, if you're a Texas fan, a win's a win. A win's a win, boys. Move on to the next one. And I did want to say one thing about the TCU and Oklahoma State game. The alternate uniforms and the helmets in that game were fire. If TCU would just make that their permanent uniforms, I think you'd get decommits from Texas A&M and Texas overnight.
How's that? Yeah, how's that NIL? How's y'all's NIL? That's the first thing I'd be asking. How's y'all's NIL? But all right, that does it, guys, for the Big 12. Remember, guys, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to go to the Pac-12. We've got our NFL preview coming up as well. There's some great matchups, and we may talk a little bit of baseball. But let's go ahead and take a trip out to the Pac-12. And look, I want to talk my ish for a second. All right, can I talk my ish for a second, Blaine? Is that cool?
Talk your ish, young bull.
To everybody in the comments chat on the Tom Luganville USC video talking about USC on defense, don't ever, when you come at the Kings, you best not miss. Don't pretend like you know football anymore. You know who I'm talking about. Oh, USC's defense, number one defense in the world ever of all time. Tom Luganville does know what he's talking about. We lead the world in turnovers and sacks and all these other things. But if you actually watch the film and you actually knew football and weren't just hoping, because that's what you were doing. I don't know who's hoping more. You were the Indians. So, I mean, it's just the truth. You were hoping that was going to work, but it didn't because you weren't good enough. Now, is Utah the best team there ever was? No, but Utah is still a good ball club. But everybody thought that USC had the steel curtain. You didn't even have a curtain rod for a satin sheet, man. So don't come in here talking like you know things that you don't. We appreciate you watching, but make sure you do more listening. That way you won't embarrass yourself in front of everybody that has the internet. But looking at this game, all right, Caleb Williams and USC and Mario Williams and everybody's named Williams, apparently that's good as football, plays for USC. Travis Dye, they were able to move the ball in Utah better than what I thought. Utah up front is as soft as what I've seen on the defensive line in a while. And I know you lost Devin Lloyd. You can't replace Devin Lloyd, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. All right, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Utah continues to struggle in the front seven, but Caleb Williams is a witch, and they have some witches just running around USC right now. And Lincoln Riley is going to get that place turned around because he's going to get the linemen. But on the defensive side, Utah killed you the way they've been killing everybody. Cameron Rising is going to get through 2 reads and just absolutely take off. And when he takes off, he is an upper echelon runner. He's like when you watching Cam Rising run is like watching an Ewok run from Star Wars. You know when they're just running through the bushes and they're like kind of small and boxed and there's not a big surface area to hit and they're lower to the ground than what you think and nobody can hit them? That's who Cameron Rising is. Nobody can square Cameron Rising up unless they're halfway up on the ground. So, again, when he takes off, he is a deadly runner, but Utah found a way. Huge win for Utah. Tough break for the Pac-12. You better hope UCLA goes undefeated or you're going to be shut out of the playoff again.
Utah was already a dangerous team, but what makes them even more dangerous? Having nothing to lose. Yep. They already lost at Florida, already lost to UCLA. This team, that's what makes this game so interesting is Utah had nothing to lose. I mean, you could see it at the very end going for 2. Right? Do you think Utah does that if they're undefeated? I don't know. They go for 2 late in the game. That crowd was electric. I wish I could have been at that football game. Cameron Rising threw for 415. That one did surprise me. More to your point, Jake, on USC's defense. But I do want to say something about Caleb Williams. That kid is as good as it gets, man. He's got such a bright future. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. When I watch him throw the football, I just see a pure pocket passer. He can also make plays with his legs. USC is going to be just fine.
Who does he remind you of? Does he remind you of anybody, Caleb Williams?
Let me think about that for a second for the best comp.
You know he reminds me of? Tyrod Taylor. Okay. He reminds me of Tyrod Taylor a little bit.
A little more of a pure thrower.
Yeah, I think he's a better thrower, but he's so good in space, man. Tyrod just used to absolutely murder people.
I'll tell you, he kind of looks like Joe Burrow to me, to be honest with you.
I think he's just a better version of Trey Lance.
Oh, I like that. Now, Trey in that system at North Dakota State made it kind of tough coming out of college. But I don't think if you've got a good comp in the comments right now, after you hit that like button, that subscribe button, turn those notifications on.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Blaine.
Okay, because I got to watch kind of the latter half of this USC Utah game, and it came down. I think one of the last drives, Caleb Williams threw a pick. All right, they caught the pick with 12 seconds left. It ended up being defensive pass interference. Caught the pick, ran it about 10, 15, 20 yards, ran 6 or 7 seconds off the clock. They stopped the clock where the kid caught the pick for the pass interference. I didn't think you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there were a couple situations yesterday. How about the one we had on Thursday night, I believe, or Friday night with SMU, where you had they're out to punt. SMU is about to receive the punt. It's 4th and 8. And the punting team, they punt the ball. There's a hold on the return team and an inadvertent whistle during the play. And since there was an inadvertent whistle during the play, the 10 yards didn't knock the punt return team back 10 yards. They gave the 10 yards to the punt team, which gave them an automatic first down. I had never seen that before in my whole life. And still, part of me does not think it's right. But that was just absolutely wild. And it shows you, if I'm a smart fan, okay, and I'm at a home game, I'm not telling anybody to do this. All right, but if you really want to crack the code, all right, beat the Enigma machine, you got to think outside the box. Maybe we're punting in a big situation. Maybe it's 4th and 6. Maybe I'm betting whether or not somebody will hold on the punt return team. And maybe I blow an inadvertent whistle during the middle of the punt to try and get my team a first down. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. I'm just throwing that out there. Take that however you guys will. But Blaine, I'm with you on that, man. But it was a big win for Utah. And speaking of big wins, it was nice to see Colorado get off the schneid against the Cal team that we know took Notre Dame down to the wire as well. We don't have to really dive into that. It's just nice for those kids at Colorado to be able to get a win. Washington looked me in the eyes and decided that they didn't care. I had a -13. They decided to beat a bad Arizona team by 10 at home. I thought they'd come back and be a little bit more pissed off. But what I want to ask you guys about is one game that not a lot of people for some reason are talking about, and I know why, because of Alabama losing and USC losing, is Stanford went to Notre Dame and beat them, guys. And this Stanford team is not good at football. Great. I like Tanner McKee. I think he has a chance to be a guy in the pros that can do some things. But this wasn't a standardized test. This was football. And Stanford went up there and passed it with flying colors, David.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of this one. I just saw the score at the end, and I was surprised because, like you said, this is, Stanford, David Shaw has been able to always, kind of like what we were talking about with Mike Leach, always step up and beat someone who he's not supposed to. Mostly in those sorts of rivalry games, you'll see Stanford go to USC and win, or sometimes against Notre Dame, but that's when they have a good football team. Stanford's not that great right now. Did you guys watch much of this game?
No.
Man, I was flipping back and forth on it a little bit. I had it on the computer. I'll tell you
what
this.
What happened?
Well, basically, long story short, they gave Stanford 2 touchdowns. I'm looking at it right now. Tanner McKee goes 26-38 for 288, no touchdowns. You had 1 rushing touchdowns. Filkins had 91 yards on 32 carries, so he averaged less than 3 yards per carry. So you had 1 rushing touchdown, no receiving touchdowns, and you recovered 2 fumbles. So, guys, it's very simple. You didn't return a kick for a touchdown. You didn't return a punt for a touchdown. They gave you 2 touchdowns on defense, and that's been Notre Dame's Achilles heel is offensively. And it got a little bit better, actually, when Tyler Buckner went down and they brought Drew Pine off the bench, off the Pine, as funny as that is. But they absolutely regressed in this game, and Notre Dame continues. And it was going to be choppy with Marcus early, but it seems to me like they kind of overlooked this one a little bit, and they let a bad Stanford team just come up there and wait them out.
I don't know.
Still outrushed Stanford too.
Yeah, I don't know why we would be surprised by this, or why
Stanford's that bad.
I don't know why
Stanford's
Notre
that
Dame
bad.
would look over a Stanford team when you can't even beat Marshall at home.
Yeah.
So there's no team you should look over on your schedule saying, "No, this will be a walk in the park," unless you're playing Mercer or somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised by this. I mean, they have improved the last couple of weeks, but still their quarterback plays mediocre, and you can only go so far without a quarterback. But no, I'm not surprised by this. I did not watch a single second of this football game.
So that makes them 3-2, Notre Dame, that is. And now they have UNLV. All right, that should move them to 4-2. They go to Syracuse. Syracuse, okay? They do get Clemson at home, and then Navy, Boston College, and then they finish at Southern Cal.
Yeah, best of luck with that. Best of luck. Marcus Freeman, I do think he's going to be fine there at Notre Dame. Do you want to give a shout out to our friends over there?
Not 3-2, sorry.
3-3. I do want to give a shout out to our friends over there at Oregon State, who moved to 5-2. You had the second career start from Gold Branson. Were able to beat Washington State. The Beavers just sneaking around in the backfield there in the Pac-12 a little bit per se. We're going to talk about the Oregons. We're going to talk about the UCLAs, the USCs, the Utahs, but Oregon State putting together another solid year with Coach Norman and Corvallis. That play, and that's a place you can win too. I think it's an underrated place. They care about their football out there. Keep putting out a good product, keep getting good players, and you'll keep getting good results. But all right, guys, let's move on here. Remember, if you do have a donation, we will read it out loud. Let's go ahead and do some donations because, guys, we have hit every Power 5 conference except the ACC, which we'll get to really quick after these donations.
Clemson won.
Yeah, Clemson won. There's your ACC update.
Yeah, let's go to Travis Johnson, $1.99 donation. He says, can South Alabama get some hype?
Let's do it. Let's do our group of 5 shout-outs.
Let them know, Crane.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you right now that's my alma mater. Should have beat UCLA. Honestly, should have beat UCLA. Here's my thing with South Alabama. When Kane was hired, Kane Womack, the head coach, I thought it was a fantastic hire. I didn't know he was going to be able to do it this fast. But you mix that with the new on-campus stadium, which was huge. When I coached there, that was the thing we were waiting on. We knew that was going to be the next step. But as far as group of 5 teams, guys, especially with Coastal getting blasted at home by Old Dominion, is South Alabama the best group of 5 team out there? Look me in the eyes and tell me I'm wrong. Right now, look at them. Both of them. Tell me I'm wrong. The Jags, like we used to say, south in your mouth. I'm sorry. It's just how it is.
You had another group of 5 shout out, didn't you, too?
I was gonna let you go. I thought you were gonna give Georgia Southern maybe a little.
You know I'm gonna get to the Georgia Southern Eagles, man, handing the James Madison Dukes their first loss.
Well, if you can't beat one guy.
You know, I mean, look, James Madison came in all by himself, you know, to Paulson Stadium. But, hey, a ranked James Madison. They were ranked 25. Yeah. Kyle Van Treese threw for 578. He set a school record at Georgia Southern.
Yeah, that's a nice win, too, for Clay Helton, a guy that we've had on the show. Blaine, do you have one out there? Jackson 5-1, by the way.
A non-Power 5?
Yeah.
Georgia Southern.
You're going to go Georgia Southern over South Alabama. Wow, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Or Auburn. One or the other. Those two. Those two right there for sure.
All right, let's get through the ACC real quick. Miami was able to beat Virginia Tech, but not cover. They jumped out. I think they were up 20-0. Again, remember, good teams win, great teams cover. You know, Brent Pry's going to take some time out there. I'm just really underwhelmed by Grant Wells and what he's been able to do at Virginia Tech. I had a lot of high hopes when he left Marshall. Remember, as a freshman, he busted on the scene for Marshall. I mean, they covered every game because he was covering every inch of the field with the pass. Tulane's another good group of 5 team, obviously, with the win over K-State earlier. Willie Fritz, a guy who, you know, used to whip our ass when he was at Georgia Southern all the time. Thank goodness I don't got to coach against that guy anymore. But, guys, Miami, it was a game you had to win. Get a little positive momentum. We know how up and down they've been, you know, going to A&M, not being able to score when they got in the red zone, didn't have Restrepo, and then you lose to Middle Tennessee State at home. So it's a game Miami really just had to go win, and they did it. They weren't great. Virginia Tech wasn't horrible, and that's how you get a 20-14 Miami win. Blainasium.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Miami will only get better. I believe in Coach Cristobal. But right now, guys, the ACC, I mean, it's Clemson. See what it is. I mean, Clemson and Syracuse. I mean, who would have thought? NC State, Devin Leary goes out, not the same team. DJU's playing a lot better, but I think this is Clemson's conference, and you can go ahead and wrap it up. Signed, sealed, and delivered, baby.
All right, well, do you think Syracuse may have a chance? They got to go on the road to Clemson this weekend, beat an NC State team that without Devin Leary, you know, Chambers came in last week and looked pretty good in the couple drives he was in, but I guess they must, you know, somebody from the Men in Black must have showed up at his dorm and neuralized him before this week because it looked like he didn't even know who was running what or where. NC State, you know, Syracuse came down, I mean, first drive, bang, 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 bang. Garrett Schrader, the Mississippi State transfer, is looking fantastic. They're still undefeated. You've got to give them some credit. I just still don't think this team is good enough to go into Clemson where they don't lose games and beat them with what they have. I don't think the offensive line is going to be able to protect Garrett Schrader from 4 quarters before the things from 300 or the guys from 300 fought or running across that offensive line for Clemson. And then I don't see a way in which Clemson's not able to move the ball because DJU, guys, is doing it in multiple ways. He did it again yesterday. Yeah. He did it with his feet and his legs. We are seeing him grow every single week, and we keep saying, all right, are we going to see a regression? To me, he's to the point where you got like one more, you're like the first week off the Nicorette patch. Like you haven't smoked a cigarette in like a month. You're like, you know, I don't even need the patch anymore. Let's see if it's real. I've had the patch for a month. I've taken the patch off. And so far, you're waking up You're not wanting a cigarette. You're wanting scrambled eggs. You're going to sleep. You're not wanting to light up a stog. You're wanting to have good dreams about your team playing good. So we'll see if TJU can still not smoke cigarettes while off the patch, hypothetically, and not regress back to the old TJU that wants to smoke cigs, that wants to turn the ball over, that doesn't use his feet or trust his playmakers. We'll see. Your thoughts on Syracuse and Clemson?
Look, man, he looks good. This Clemson team looks good. I think Syracuse will give them a fight, but I'm starting to feel like Clemson is going to go undefeated and win the ACC. This was the last one right here that I felt kind of weird about, going on the road to Doak Campbell. Maybe Jordan Travis goes off and wins you an overtime game, something like that. That's why I said my spidey senses were tingling. I think Clemson took care of them. Look, Florida State outrushed them. They threw for more yards, and despite a 14-point push by Florida State in the fourth quarter, Clemson still holds on for the victory. So I'll be intrigued with the Syracuse matchup. But what I wanted to ask you guys was, what about the ACC championship? Do you think, because they don't play North Carolina, and it's starting to look like North Carolina may wrap up the Atlantic side of that conference, do you think, or the coastal side of that conference, do you think that Clemson, North Carolina could be a good football game?
Man, I do, because North Carolina is so lethal offensively. And I will say, DB, what's up? Greetings. He says, greetings from Japan. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you checking in on us. You know, my thing is this. I just think Clemson is so much better up front than anybody else in that conference. And that's been their meal ticket, right? What separates us from everybody else in the ACC and what gives us a chance to win once we get into the playoff, it's up front. That's where the game is won and lost. And Clemson has turned themselves into an SEC team in the ACC. I think North Carolina would be able to score. Drake May is a witch of the highest order. To me, he's Justin Herbert. He's a little, and his ceiling may be a little bit higher. And I know you say, oh, Jake, that's crazy to say. He's a freshman, whatever. The book's not out on him yet. He is the only way North Carolina can win. That defense is so bad. He can't go out there and just play good. And I know that. He knows that. You know that. Hell, even I think Joe Biden knows that. He didn't even know where he's at right now. So when you look at that matchup, I think it's going to come down to up front. I think Clemson's just too lethal on that defensive line. I think they'll get Drake May into a couple problems. You'll see a couple turnovers there. I do think that's the matchup we're getting. Let's look real quick at North Carolina, the rest of their schedule. Let's pull that up and see, because this is the last year too, I believe, guys, that the ACC is going to have divisions. I think this may be the last year, or one of the last years, that we have divisions in conferences in college football.
North Carolina has a bye next week, and then they have Pitt at home. They go to Virginia. North Carolina goes to Wake Forest, which is interesting. And then they have Georgia Tech at home, and then they will get NC State at home. So North Carolina actually does have some matchups with the Atlantic side. But again, the Atlantic is the tougher side of that conference to me, and Clemson has already made their way through Florida State, NC State, and Wake Forest. Now, if they get through Syracuse, I think they have that side of the division locked up. And I mean, while North Carolina will have some tough games left, the Coastal, to me, I mean, look, Georgia Tech's in second in the Coastal right now with a 2-1 conference record.
Yeah, man. Why'd they fire Jeff Collins? Well, how funny would it be if Georgia Tech won their division?
It'd be funny for some people, maybe not funny for others.
Definitely. All right. So, hey, I want to go 5 minutes here of just straight Ask Creighton Co. If you have a question in the chat, just ask us before we move over to the NFL. Guys, we're going to go a little bit long today, but you know what? You give the people what they want. I woke up this morning and decided to choose excellence.
Do y'all need to go ahead and get off your chest the Atlanta Braves thing?
Yeah, you know what I do.
No, you ready to do this? Football time. There's nothing else going on. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, you know what I do, because it's the trust tree and we're all in here together. Here's what I want to say about the Atlanta Braves. Am I upset? Yes. I think what we know now is you can't let Max Fried start any more game ones in the playoffs. You can't do it. I'm sorry. You can't let him do it. He goes out there and just absolutely forgets. I mean, he's like Drew Barrymore in that movie. You just expect me to bring him a pineapple every morning for his birthday. You got to be able to go out there and shove when we ask you to shove. And that's not halfway through the series. You got to come out and set the tone. He doesn't come out and sets the tone. Either the off speed isn't working or they're tagging the fastball. And Max had a good year and he's a good pitcher, but I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and tell you a story about Spencer Strider starting every game one that the Braves play from here on out. And I know they tagged him a little bit in the third and the fourth, and he's coming off the oblique. week, but that dude is worth every bit of money. I am upset that the Braves lost, okay? I'm upset. I'm not going to come on here and act like I'm not. But the Mets weren't in it. The Dodgers lost. The Yankees are down in the series. It could just be a whole oodles of noodles that's getting opened up in Major League Baseball. And, I mean, look, I think there's going to be some great stories. I talk about this all the time. I love the parity in baseball. 25% of the time, the wild card team wins the World Series. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That is an awesome stat, and it's great for the sport. And I'm thinking about what team I need to adopt here, guys, for the rest of this. And I think it may be Cleveland. And I know they changed their mascot name, and we're all 13 flavors of pissed about it because it's stupid. But I think they may be my adopted team during the playoffs. Maybe I bring the chop for the Indians.
Jake's so woke, David.
No. I'm saying
I'm
gonna use the chop. I'm gonna use the chop for the Indians because that's me channeling my inner Braves. I'm still showing them love, but also there's a team that's still in there and that could tank down the Yankees. Blaine.
Well, look, I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now. All right. If the Yankees lose this next game, Yankees Twitter, I'm going to be hell.
No, Blaine, that's what I want to ask you.
I'm going to be hell.
No, Blaine,
Twitter.
Blaine.
You have no idea what's coming.
No.
It's like when they shot the arrows in 300 and blocked out the sun. That's not arrows. That's my Twitter account.
No, Blaine, no. People don't realize. So Blaine's a Yankees fan, right? We're both Braves fans. Blaine's a Yankees fan. All year, Blaine's talking about the Yankees are going to the World Series. He's like, all year, gassing the Yankees up. The one time that Blaine said that he was upset at the Yankees because he didn't think they made enough moves at the trade deadline, which was a legitimate argument. He was not the only one saying that. That's the only negative thing he said about the Yankees. The whole time, me and Cone, it's very hard for us to say something nice about the Yankees, but I did. I even let off the show saying I think they're the best team in baseball, them and the Dodgers. But the Yankees, in their hype video for the playoffs, took a little snippet of the one bad thing that this is the True Yankees account on Twitter now, took a little snippet, all right, of what Blaine said and used it for their hype video to make it seem like Blaine said they weren't going to do well. But in fact, Blaine said they would make the World Series. So now, Blaine, if they don't, it's your turn to clap back.
Yeah, you want to talk about getting CNN'd. All right, we're about to find out. We're about to find out because I'm coming on. Right, I'm coming on. I want a 2-minute segment. All right, I want a 2-minute segment in front of the press to really show them what happened.
You need a press conference.
I need a press conference. This is Bush League, man. This is Bush League. The only thing I did was all year was give y'all credit. We're gonna win the World Series. We got the guys, and we have all the money in the world. And you didn't go get someone for the All-Star break. Regular season champions doesn't mean things. We're Yankees fans. We're rings. World Series championships, and you didn't make the move. You had the money, and big players make big-time plays and big-time moments, and that's the postseason. So lose this game. Please lose this game because I'm coming for all of it. I swear. They're going to have to block me. I don't care. Elon Musk or Zuckerberg, I don't know whose hands are all in it, but they're going to have to rip me away from Twitter. The amount of things I'm going to say about y'all account, I'm going to find out who runs it.
I love it.
Hey, my adopted team is the Philadelphia Phillies, man. The Phillies this year are last year's Braves to me. They wanted it more. And at least I can find solace in the fact that the Phillies wanted it more than the Braves, and they won the series because that I can deal with. The team that wanted it more, they went on to win. And Braves, you ended up losing when the Dodgers, to me the best team in baseball, is out now too.
Yeah.
The path was wide open.
It's slowly, the Dodgers are slowly becoming the Braves of the 90s and like the early 2000s. Y'all will win the division, no problem, but you get to the playoffs, you just freak out. You don't know what's going on, but I will not root for another NL East team. I just won't do it.
You don't want to keep it in the NL East?
No. I don't want anybody to have it but the Braves.
NL East,
no, nobody else can have it. No, I don't want anybody else to have it but the Braves. If somebody's going to win it, I don't want it to be in the NL East. I want you to have to go into another neighborhood to get it. You come into this neighborhood, you go to the Braves house to find championships. Am I a little bit salty? Yeah, but so is some of the best foods. So who's right? Anyway, that's the way I look at it.
What's your sodium intake?
Yeah, well, look, I don't know what you just called me, but I'm going to take it as disrespect. Okay, I don't know what exactly that is, but I'm going to take it as disrespect. All right, Blaine, do we have any donuts we need to read, or do we want to go ahead and transition non-Leah Thomas style to the NFL?
I love it when you transition, Jake. But no, we do not have any donations to read.
Yes, and I don't even know how to respond to that. Kentucky Fried says, you won a World Series last year. Why are you upset? Because you want to know why? Because I won a World Series this year. Okay? I don't care how good my Christmas presents were last year. It counts how good they are this year, Kentucky Fried.
Hey,
You know that. I don't want to
months-
share the wealth. I want all of it. I want to monopolize happiness.
2 months after Adam was born, Braves won the World Series. 3 months after Adam was born, Michigan beats Ohio. I said, Adam, you're done. You can never complain. I don't want to hear you coming to me as a teenager. Oh, my team is always losing. Nah, you've had enough already to last you a lifetime.
That is true. He came out hot. Look, you can't – it's hard to make the Hall of Fame if you don't start out hot. That's the truth. All right, guys. Let's go head over here to the NFL. We do have some really good matchups today, and you got to start, guys. Again, we have – oh, yeah, Duke got screwed as well. Jonathan Herndon, you bring up a great point. Roughing the passer, not only in college but in the NFL, is absolute BS right now. There was one – I forgot in what game yesterday they called a roughing the passer, and I couldn't believe it. I want to say it was Iowa State. Texas. They sacked Quinn Ewers. It was just your traditional sack, man. Just absolutely traditional, and they threw a rough in the passer and gave him 15 yards. It's a joke. There's a study now, guys, coming out, and this was actually somebody sent this to me from CNN. I was not watching it in my free time because I don't believe in masochism. But when you watch, there's a study coming out of Indiana, I believe, where they're trying to make it where there's no contact at practice because it reduces concussions. You don't have to be a scientist to realize that if you don't hit at practice, you're probably not getting concussed. You're probably not falling down on your way to practice, hitting your head and getting concussed. All right. But guess what? When you don't tackle in practice, you are putting the players in more danger than if you do. Tackling is something that happens at full speed in the game. And if you do not do it in practice and you do not work it, you put the players' health, not only on your team, but on the other team in jeopardy. That is the worst way to go about it. And that shows you that these people that are doing these studies don't understand football. It's hard for somebody as a scientist just looking at numbers. If you don't hit in practice, you have less concussions. If I don't fly in a plane, I'm probably not going to die in a plane crash. The only way I'm going to die in a plane crash is if it hits me on the ground. The odds of that are very, very low. But my biggest thing is if you don't understand football, and you've never been in it, you don't realize how important practicing tackling is. And some people do, I guess. Maybe I'm not giving people enough credit. But you prepare by tackling. Navy, I think it was last year, didn't tackle during the offseason. And Ken Niumatalolo said it was the worst decision that he has ever made as a head coach, and he will never do it again. This is why scientists should not run football. I'm just telling you, it's just a different type of thing. Okay, but that's my thoughts.
I only listen to one scientist and one scientist only, and that's John Brinkus.
John Brinkus. Me too. Yeah, we got to get John Brinkus back on, man. That's our guy. Hey, eliminating tackling in practice is not going to reduce concussions in the game. That's the thing. And all the concussions that I've been around happen in the game. So if you don't hit in practice, that's not going to eliminate concussions come game time. But what it is going to do is going to make ACL injuries go up. It's going to make MCL injuries go up because you haven't gone full speed in practice. And now when we see a rise in ankle injuries and knee injuries and back injuries going up in the game, let's don't look around and say, hey, why is this happening now? You know why it's happening.
That's exactly right. Like I said, you don't have to be Matt Damon from Good Will Hunting to connect those dots or put those numbers together. Him. Yeah, I'm not him either. All right, guys, let's start with Bills Chiefs. We all know it's the rematch, right? I mean, they changed the NFL rules, okay, because of this game last year. When I look, I almost always want to default to the home team in this game because the Chiefs, even though they don't have Tyreek Hill, are still more explosive than a train headed to Ukraine right now. So when you look at what they have around with Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce is absolutely freaking out every game. Was a great fantasy pickup by me. I'm just going to throw that in there. And then the weapons we know that they've already had that Mahomes is able to use there on the outside. That offensive line, though, guys, is the difference, in my opinion, with them being able to run the ball when they have to run it. That's the difference. In the Chiefs, last year they struggled to protect Mahomes. They were still able to score and put up a lot of points against the Bills. The question is now, with this new vamped up Bills defense, this new revamped Bills pass rush, are they going to be able to get to Mahomes a little bit quicker against this offensive line? The game always comes down to up front, typically on the edge. That's what I'm excited. I just like the Chiefs in this one at home. I know the Bills in them, they're out. They want blood. They're out for revenge. But sometimes we overlook the team that is not out for revenge, that has been doing this for a while. I think it's a high-scoring game. Probably going to take the over in my bets, guys, in this game. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the Chiefs are a good bet here, especially at plus 115 on the money line. Home underdog with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I think that's a good bet. You're talking about the over. Here's my question though. The over right now is 54 is that line. When does the philosophy of two high scoring offenses come into play and you take the under here?
Well, I always go back and forth because there's alternate lines. Like right now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about taking the over at 51.5. I mean, that's basically 28-24 gets you there. I think these teams both have a chance to score in the 30s, but you would think at least one of them would definitely score in the 30s. And if these were exactly the same teams as last year in every single way, I think you'd be able to use that theory a little bit more. But I just believe that the offenses and the quarterbacks are so good. They're both balanced. They can both run. Both teams can run on the ground. I know both defenses will be hyped up to stop them, but I just think there's going to be points in this game. I can just feel it. I mean, I'm Peter Parker right now. My spidey senses are off the charts, Blaine.
Yeah, if I'm touching anything in this game when it comes to betting, it's definitely the over. You can get the over 50 right now on DraftKings. It's minus 199. So I'm telling you, look, it kind of goes both ways, but these two offensive men, especially with these quarterbacks, when they play each other, it just gets into another gear. These guys go into another gear, just a competition of going back and forth. So I can get this game at over 50.5. I mean, if you were going to pick a team out of this two, I would always go with the home team right now, especially during the regular season. But if I was going to touch this game, give me the over. But I think the Bills win this game now.
Cone, who do you like?
Man, I think I would take the Chiefs right now, money line. I don't think I'd take them with the points. If you're going to take the Chiefs, go ahead and take them with the money line at plus 115. I think I would do that with them being at home. If the game was in Buffalo, I would take Buffalo. I think the Chiefs are very balanced right now, which is exciting if you're a Chiefs fan, and Travis Kelce is undoubtedly the best tight end in the league. So being in Kansas City, I'd probably take the Chiefs.
All right, let's move on. Cowboys go to the Eagles. Huge division game. Remember, guys, throw those questions in the comments. We'll answer them, especially with a donation, but make sure you like and subscribe. This one's huge. All right, Cooper Rush, you're undefeated. It's been a great story. So is Hansel and Gretel. So is Little Red Riding Hood. We both know how those end. We'll see if Cooper Rush ends up getting eaten or put in the oven. When I look at this matchup, the Eagles are beat up front on the offensive line. All right, we know that, but Jalen Hurts, I think, is the great equalizer with his legs. I know the Cowboys defense has been the best one since like 73. And with that Hurt offensive line, I mean, you look at Micah Parsons and Dexter Lawrence and some of these creatures that are on the defensive line and they're able to rush for the passer for the Cowboys. That's going to neutralize some things, but that's when I think you see Jalen Hurts' legs take over and be able to extend plays, not only in the run, but extend them in the pass and find guys during the scramble drill. But don't be shocked, too, if you see a ton of quick game early from the Eagles to try and get Jalen in a little bit of the rhythm. But that defense, the biggest matchup here is not the Eagles offense versus the Cowboys defense. It's the Cowboys offense versus the Eagles defense. They've had success running the ball on the ground with Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. CeeDee Lamb has been rejuvenated by Cooper Rush coming into the game because he actually throws it to him, and when he does, it's an accurate pass. I just don't see a way, guys, in which the Cowboys can score enough points against this Eagles defense, which is basically just like an amalgamation of Georgia and Alabama and everything physical and angry and huge and fast and pissed in football. I like the Eagles. I think they're a 6.5-point favorite, Blaine.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's going to come down to the Cowboys running game. That's what it's going to come down to. It makes everything easier for Cooper Rush. Zeke's been playing well. Tony Pollard's been playing well. But this D-line versus this O-line of the Cowboys, the Eagles are beat up front. But I think Jalen Hurts' pocket presence, just his ability to run, will somewhat stifle the Cowboys' defensive line. And I'm liking the over in this game, guys. I know it's too solid.
You're liking the over.
The over's at 38.5. So I think we're good enough as NFL players and the weapons that we have to score more than that. But I don't know. This game's almost a pick 'em to me. 6.5 is tough, especially I believe the Eagles are on the road.
No, Eagles are at home.
No, the Eagles are at home.
Eagles are at home. Then the 6.5 makes it a lot more doable, but it's tough, especially with these two D lines.
No, I agree with you. And you're talking about the D line with Micah Parsons and Demarcus Lawrence. I want to see if they can get to Jalen Hurts and not let him through the front door of that pocket, because if they overrush him on the edges, he's just going to take off right up the middle. So I want to see the Cowboys be able to sort of neutralize him and then let your defense, that's the Eagles defense, really go to work on Cooper Rush and the Cowboys offense. I think the Cowboys could play him to within 6, but the problem is with them on the road. I just think even with the Eagles with some injuries, I like Philadelphia here.
Yeah, I think we all agree on Philadelphia. Blaine, you don't think the Cowboys win, do you?
No.
All right, I respect it. All right, producer Justine, here you go. Ravens at the Giants. The Gigantes, 4-1. Brian Daboll's the most popular fat man in New York since Biggie Smalls. And hell, even the Jets are playing good. Syracuse is undefeated. I'm looking around the Bills. I mean, like I said, during the week, New York's a football state. I know Rutgers is in New Jersey, but I think Shauna will turn that place around here soon anyway. I hope the Knicks and the Nets, they better figure it out or they're going to be pushed out the door pretty quickly. The Giants, when I look at him and Daniel Jones, what he's been able to do with his legs, I think has been the difference. I mean, he's turned into a threat as a runner. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. But it's just hard for me to pick against the Ravens. And I know they've had their struggles in the second half of games. You look at the Bills game a couple weeks ago, really throughout the season, they've struggled in the second half. But Lamar, it's a money year. He's going to get playing against one of the biggest franchises that we know in all of sports because it's in New York, the New York Giants. I feel like he goes up there and puts on a show. I think he puts on a show with Mark Andrews. I think you see J.K. Dobbins, the best J.K. since J.K. Rowling, bust out probably a couple touchdowns. But don't be shocked if Lamar has one of those games where it turns into what great play can Lamar make compared to what great play can Saquon Barkley make. We know it's been a great, revamped year, comeback year for Saquon after the injury, and the Giants are a great story. I think this game's close. But I think the Ravens find a way with Lamar Jackson in a money year, and I bet they do it in the second half. I know Harbaugh and them have really been working that second half.
It does seem like the Ravens are a better football team. Lamar Jackson could be the best player in the NFL, possibly. But it does look like the Giants are sort of Cinderella at the ball right now. So my question is, obviously, we all want to know, can they keep this up? If you're a Giants fan, and you're going to take the Giants in this game, the points are plus 5.5 Giants right now at minus 105, but then Giants money line is plus 185. My thing is, if the Ravens are going to win this football game, I think they'd win by more than a touchdown. So if you're not going to get a touchdown with the points and you're a Giants fan, I'd say go ahead and take New York money line plus 185 at home. See if you can shock the world. Blaine, am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can ever go wrong with taking a home team who's a dog. The thing about me in this game, I think Danny Dimes regresses. I think he throws a couple turnovers that we're kind of used to Danny Dimes throwing. Lamar Jackson is just is on another level. I mean, it might be a Cinderella story, Dave, and it somewhat is, but it's kind of one of those things. You put the slipper back on her feet, and you realize she's wearing 14s. So I think
what's wrong with that? What's wrong with 14s?
A lot of things. One, check for an Adam's apple. Two, I mean, let's figure it out. Let's come in here and take a seat and let's talk about it. But I think the Ravens win the game. I think Lamar throws it to Mark Andrews every play because teams refuse to guard him for some reason. I don't know why yet, to be honest. But I think Danny Dimes regressed. I think Saquon will have a good game. But I think this Ravens defense is somewhat starting to figure it out again after that just terrible showing against the Dolphins in the second half, then the Bills. But I think I'm going to take the Ravens -3 in this game.
Okay. Are you playing against Mark Andrews in fantasy?
No, I did it last week. Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it last week when people,
against
I forgot who it was, but they're just like, hey, look, don't guard him. All right. Lamar's definitely not going to throw to him, especially in the red zone. I think it was the Raiders. No, they played the Chiefs. I don't think it was the Raiders. Sean Ketzfer says, "Hey, can we talk some NHL? We're gonna let the season go a little bit. We want to see who's really about it before we do that. And again, I'm hoping the Preds do their thing. Speaking of adopted teams, but Emmanuel C with a $5 donation, he says, I have Jalen Waddle starting and Chase Claypool and Smith Schuster on my bench. Any changes? Devontae Smith and Deebo Samuel are my other starters. Look, I have Jalen Waddle too, man. I know Skylar Thompson or, whatever country music singers playing quarterback for the Dolphins today, but we'll see. I mean, Tyreek Hill's beat up. You would think Jalen Waddle would be the main option. I hope he throws him a lot of screens and slants. That's the way I'm looking at it. I got Adam Thielen on my bench. I'm going back and forth, but
if I had to pick between Smith-Schuster or Claypool, I think you'd go Smith-Schuster if you were going to replace Jalen, but I wouldn't do it. I actually got Smith-Schuster on my bench too as well. But yeah, I would keep Jalen and hope he waddles his way to some more points. So that's what I would hope there, Emmanuel C. But guys, speaking about hoping, another team that hopes to go on the road and do some things today is the Bengals. They are going to the Saints. Guys, the Saints haven't beat the Bengals at home since 1994.
Really?
It's been a long time. Joey B's coming back. Jamar Chase is coming back. The gang's all here. Taysom Hill went creative player last week and was able to win the game for the Saints basically by himself, playing every position that's ever been invented in football. Rumor has it he sold 12 hot dogs in between the third and fourth quarter, which was a record for hot dog salesmen there. Andy Dalton, does he have gingivitis? Yes. Can he still be somewhat competent? Yes. I think he's done a really good job from an efficiency standpoint since he's come in there, but you got to have Alvin Kamara go off at some point. What game is it where Alvin Kamara is going to go off? Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be the one when everybody's talking about Burrow coming back and Jamar Chase? Nobody's really talking about Alvin. Hell, more people are talking about Simon and Theodore. So when is he actually going to step up, be able to make the plays that got him drafted so high in fantasy? I think it happens in this game, Blaine. I think Cam Jordan and that defensive line absolutely harass Joe Burrow. I'm talking about give me a restraining order, don't show up at my house harassment. I don't think they find a way to score enough points while the Saints get enough stops, and Will Lutz kicks a 44-yard field goal from the left middle to win the game. First one since 94. Go, wow. Blaine.
Look, Alvin Kamara doesn't have a touchdown this season.
Ugh.
What's going on? What's going on? Like in the coaching meetings, what are we talking about? It's like, here, let's just find ways to get Taysom Hill the ball. Look, I know we're paying Alvin millions of dollars. Like you're just paying him half the account. But let's give it to Taysom Hill, all right, so that every time he comes in at quarterback, guys, I was watching the Seahawks game, and I was just like, guys, it's Q power. He's going to run quarterback power. That's what they run every time.
Q power or jump pass.
That's what every time he runs in the game. But the thing about this with me in this game is, one, if you're a Saints fan, like, will you really feel that bad if you do lose this game and Jamar Chase goes off and Joey B goes off? Like, there's ever a team you're going to lose to. I think they'd be okay with losing the Bengals. But I do think Jamar goes off.
Finally, because, he's
had 23 points last week. Yeah. I'll take it. But, man, get in the end zone. Andy Dalton is the definition of mid, him and Kirk Cousins. So, I like the Bengals in this game.
I like the Bengals too, man. I think Joey B and Jamar Chase come back to Louisiana, put on a show. Michael Thomas is out for the Saints, and now it looks like Chris Olave is going to be out too. I'll take the Bengals.
Hey, look, backs against the wall. Everybody's counting them out. Olave's knocked out. Michael Thomas is hurt yet again. Jameis is doing God knows what in the locker room before the game, and he's not going to play. But that voodoo that you do, I think the Saints, again, find a way. It's got to be Alvin. You got a couple more guys step up. But speaking about stepping up, the Jets, Robert Saleh said he was keeping receipts, trying to cash another one in today, but they got to go up to Lambeau against the Packers team. Guys, it's averaging 19 points a game. It's just gross. And it really makes me feel like the Packers are due to have a breakout game, a game where Lazard does go off. Really need Aaron Jones to play a game of let's figure it out for my fantasy team. I don't need for him to just put on the cloak and disappear. And the dude's got more 4-yard runs than just about anybody in the league, but for some reason just can't hit the home run, whether it's in the receiving game out of the backfield or the running game. I think the Jets run into a little bit of a wall here. I think the Packers are trying to find some answers. I think they find them tonight with find them today with Aaron Rodgers, fellas. I like the Packers big in this one.
I agree with you, man. I think a breakout game for the Packers after coming back from London. Blaine, you see something different here?
Breakout game? What do y'all think the score is going to be in this game?
Oh, man, I hope it's over 46.
59. 59-42, Blaine. What do you think?
You want me to bet against the one who learned how to ride with the fear at a young age?
I thought you might take Jets.
Huh?
He's a Cougar hunter. You got to give him credit.
Look, I know it's TMZ. All pictures of Zach Wilson and Giselle together at a club in Miami.
Stop it. Don't you do that to Tom Brady's girl.
Okay, look. The only thing I know is Tom Brady. You want to talk about a revenge tour? The NFL better watch out. There's only one thing scarier then
Give him the
Shark
trophy.
Week,
Give
that's
him the
Tom Brady
trophy
after
now.
a divorce.
Give him
Blaine,
the trophy now.
Blaine, say that again. What did you just say? There's nothing scarier
There's
than
only
what?
one thing scarier than Shark Week, and that's Tom Brady right after a divorce.
During Halloween too.
I mean, look, Shark Week scares the hell out of me, guys. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh, it does too. I don't watch TV for that week.
Yeah,
just
I won't
in
go
case.
in past knees in the water unless there's some beverages being drank. But hey, give me the what's the spread in this game? It's not the
man. Let me check it out
Jets?
right here. I want to say it's the Packers like 8.5.
Yeah,
or something.
no, it's minus 8 Packers.
It's -8.
No, give me Zach Wilson and the boys to cover. Brees Hall. I mean, you got Garrett Wilson. I mean, give me the kids.
You want Jets money line plus 270?
No, I don't.
We do have a question as we wrap up here, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Should the Colts fire Reich if they lose to the Jags at home? Sorry, you just got here if you already covered it. Mason, we actually didn't. You got here just in time. No, I don't think so. Last year was so devastating, I know, with Carson Wentz. It was so bad that, like, y'all had to break up. You know, I guess it's like when something happens in the relationship that's so horrible, like there's no way to fix it. We just need to break up. It's like, you know, we got engaged and then I found out you cheated on me with like my mom or something. Like, we just got to break up. You just got to break up. There's no solving it. There's no let's get everybody back together and talk about it. You lost to the Jags at home with a chance to go to the playoffs. I would actually rather my significant other cheat on me with my mom than lose to the Jags to go to the playoffs. I don't know which is more devastating. It's a pretty tough situation. You know, guys, I think Frank Reich's a really good coach. But I feel like and I know Jonathan Taylor's been banged up this year, and he's not going to play today. They got to put some more weapons around Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan, to me, I think, again, it's the old villager, put him on the raft and push him to the river. I mean, how many years does Matt Ryan really have left? I wouldn't fire Reich, though. If it goes downhill this year and then you start off bad next year, I think you look to make a move. And then you guys can hire Brian Harsin.
I agree with you. I do think the Jaguars go on the road and get the win today, but I don't think a mid-season firing is in order when the best football player on your team, Jonathan Taylor, is out for the 3rd straight week, I think, and Matt Ryan's your quarterback. You don't have a long-term answer at the position. I don't think that deserves a mid-season firing.
Well, one thing about this is, you know, Cone, I thought you were going to play a lot better for the Colts this year.
Yeah, David.
Am I Elon or am I Matt Ryan?
You're both.
A little bit of both, man.
You're both.
I mean,
You're
it's 2022. You can be whatever you want to be.
You're Matt Musk or Elon Ryan. That's
Ryan.
Elon Ryan sounds actually
that's kind of like a fire baseball name.
No, that sounds like
I'm batting 365.
It sounds like one of those books John Clancy wrote. You know, like about like a spy or something. Elon Ryan. Like, you never knew it was him. You thought he was delivering pizzas, but he's really delivering national secrets. All right, Ken, you have a great rest of your weekend, buddy. Appreciate you hopping in here. Appreciate everybody hopping in the chat. Guys, let's go through the fantasy lineups real quick. I'm going to start with mine. If you don't know, I'm playing Michael Knowles, and the loser of this has to do the one-chip challenge, which the more I look that up on the internet, the more scared that I get. I didn't realize I was signing up to die. I'm starting Kyler Murray at the Seahawks. I mean, look, the Seahawks, they've been scored on more than just about anybody in the league. They're pretty good on offense. But, Kyler, can we go in there and please play a game called Let's Figure It Out? Then I got Travis Etienne. Derrick Henry's on a bye, so we're going to hold hands and pray to God together that Travis figures it out. Aaron Jones this week, how about we be the difference and not the reason, bud? Need more than 10 points. Stop making Aaron Rodgers look bad. Deebo Samuel. Really impressed me week 1. Need you to break out. We're going to the Falcons. Obviously, Jimmy G's back. You should have more targets than the middle of where I live here in Tennessee. There's like 3 targets in a Publix. Jalen Waddle. We talked about that earlier. Tyreek's banged up. I need something from you. Travis Kelce, you keep doing the exact same thing that you're doing. You don't change a damn thing. You keep doing exactly what you're doing. Really appreciate you. Wrote you a letter. Put some chocolates in there. Really thinking about you this weekend, my friend. Then Cortland Sutton, been my flex. Listen, I know wrestling the offense is a disaster. I mean, hell, they're having to send FEMA trailers and the Red Cross down there to help figure out what's going on offense. They're making fun of you on Thursday night. They're talking about Sierra's back hanging out with Future again after watching that last performance. And then Evan McPherson at kicker. Just keep doing what you're doing, bud. And the Packers defense. You let me down last week. All right. You let me down last week. Ended up with 4 points against a team and in the Giants in London that's not exactly explosive on offense. So now you get the Jets at home. Grow up. Make tackles, make plays, stop embarrassing everybody from Wisconsin more than Mandela Barnes right now. Who's got next?
Well, I'm playing the number 1 team in the league, Mr. Ben Shapiro, and I started Carson Wentz on Thursday night, and I'll take that blame. That's on me, boys. I started Carson Wentz. He's still undefeated on Thursday night, but he's not undefeated in getting me fantasy points. That's for sure. 4.16 at the quarterback position. Meanwhile, Ben's going to start Josh Allen. So, yeah, there's a loss in that category.
God.
So I'm not too hopeful today, man, but Austin Eckler's been going off recently. Let's see if we can keep it going. I think Nick Chubb is the leader of my team. He's putting the other players on his back and saying, follow me. Look, Jamar Chase, maybe it is time. You go down to the Superdome and get some of that Louisiana voodoo magic goes off today. That'd be fantastic. I really need CeeDee Lamb to play. Sounds like he is going to play, but I don't have another option with Michael Thomas out and Curtis Samuel having already played on Thursday night. So CeeDee Lamb's my second wide receiver. I'm starting David Njoku at tight end for the Browns moving forward. Kyle Pitts, there's the bench. Go sit on it. And then I'm going to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the flex position there with Josh Jacobs out. But Clyde's been getting me points. Clyde's been doing well until last weekend. So, hey, let's show up. Let's figure it out. Maybe it is a high-scoring affair there in Kansas City, and maybe we can shock the world, kind of like Tennessee.
Hey, Blaine, guys, I do want to interject. I've just seen one of the funniest tweets. Brad Lester put, Tennessee better hide old Smokey the dog. Bama fans have a habit of poisoning things with bark. Go ahead. Pretty good. Pretty good. That one lands pretty hard.
That's pretty solid right there. I'm not going to sit here and lie. All right, well, I guess my fantasy team decided not to tackle in the offseason because we're all hurt. I've been in touch with Brandon Staley trying to figure out what's going on with Keenan Allen. How are we letting this happen from a hamstring from the first quarter of the first week, and we're still hurt going into week 7. But I got DeAndre Swift, Dameon Pierce, both on buys, Daniel Carlson on a buy. So I'm trying to pick up. I'm playing against Morning Wire. I mean, if there's ever a team you want to turn it around against, guys, we got Vanderbilt this week. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm starting Jalen Hurts. I got Kamara. I had to pick up Henderson for the Rams. He's starting this game. Also have Cooper Kupp for the Rams. Michael Pittman Jr. is my biggest question. I just don't know whether – I mean, the kid was the number 1 receiver for the Colts last year. He's a hell of a guy, but Matt Ryan just can't seem to get him the ball. Hayden Hurst, I had to pick up a tight end this weekend because Darren Waller's on a buy.
Could have traded for T.J. Hawkinson. You could have had T.J. Hawkinson, which is 2 easy steps.
Chris Godwin hopefully goes off a little bit and gets Pitt, but I need a promise from you two in here. Go ahead and say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
If I drop Daniel Carlson, y'all can't pick him up.
Oh, yeah, I won't pick him up for sure.
Yeah. I will
There's
not
no way I'll
pick
do that.
up Daniel Carlson. I get
Did you already do it?
Blaine.
Cone.
Did you already do it?
Cone.
Man, I have Tyler.
Blaine, why would you drop Daniel Carlson?
Okay, all right. I gave you Kyle Pitts advice. Okay, so just like.
How about you take Kyle Pitts off my hand and I won't pick him up?
Look, man. There's already enough problems over here that we're dealing with.
So it would be bad if you dropped him and then I picked him up and made you trade me somebody for him.
Look, Hop coming back next weekend. Come on.
Well, after what I tried to do to Cone last week, and I knew he needed a quarterback, and he ended up playing Carson Wentz, so I picked up 2 quarterbacks and the best defense that was left on the board, and Cone just has the best week of fantasy. It's karma. That's karma. So I'm not touching Daniel Carlson. How about that? I wouldn't touch him if he walked in my living room and tried to get me to hold for him. All right. All right. Bets. Let's get to it. Again, make sure you like and subscribe, guys. Got a great set of shows this week as well. Here's what I got today, guys. Browns -2 at home against the Patriots. I know the Browns struggle against the Patriot or the run on defense. Have given up 200 yards past 2 games. I think they figure it out. No Mac Jones for the Patriots. I know they've got Brian Chips Ahoyer and Bailey Zappados, whatever his last name is, who played at Western Kentucky. I just don't think they score enough. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, thunder, lightning, whatever you want to call the combo. They're deadly. Jacoby Brissett, really like that story. Hope he has a happy ending, not the one like Deshaun Watson wants. Then give me the Bills Chiefs over 51.5. I got that at -150. That's on the alternate line. Then, guys, I like the Eagles -7 tonight against the Cowboys. I think they may run them out of the gym. I'm getting that at +100. Then the Jets-Packers over 46 at +100. Give me the Seahawks -1 at home against the Cardinals. That new Call of Duty just dropped, so I know Kyler's not going to be paying attention to a lot that's going on the field. That's coming off at +116. And then the Rams -10.5 at home against the Panthers, who are in the jungle alone without a head coach and hungry hungry and scared and nervous, and Baker Mayfield still sucks. So I'm going to go with the Rams.
Well, Josh Reagan in the chat's making me rethink my first pick here. He says the Steelers secondary is almost entirely out for the game. TJ Watt's out for the Steelers, not going to be pretty against the Bucks, but I'm still going to take the Bucks Steelers under 49.5. I bought it up a little bit. That's at minus 178. Hey, even if the Bucks go off, I don't think they're scoring more than 49.5, and I don't know how much the Steelers are going to score. So I'm going to take the under there. I got the 49ers minus 2.5. I believe they're at Atlanta today. That's at minus 172. I have a little player head-to-head here, boys. I got Saquon Barkley minus 19.5 rush yards against J.K. Dobbins at minus 115. So he needs to outrush Dobbins by 20 yards. Then I have the Jags money line plus 100, Seahawks money line plus 110, and then I'm going Eagles minus 3 at minus 192.
Love it. Planasium.
All right, I love it. Well, all right, the little Giants help us God. So let's go. Give me the over in the Bills-Chiefs game at 50. That is minus 199. Give me the Ravens minus 3 at minus 180. Give me the Rams minus 6.5, minus 185 against the Panthers, I believe. Give me the over in the Eagles-Cowboys game, over 38. That's minus 190, 38.5, excuse me. Give me the Jaguars plus 3.5. That's minus 184 against the Colts. And give me the Bucks minus 6.5, minus 170 versus.
You're not taking any dogs. You're just going straight.
I need just wins, man. I just need wins. After yesterday.
What'd you go yesterday?
I had Bama minus 5.5. Had Clemson minus 6.5. Clemson ends up winning by 6, giving up that last touchdown. So I ended up going 2-4 yesterday. Need some dubs today.
Yeah, I mean, did we all go 2-4 yesterday?
I went 4-2, man. I had 5-1 stared right in the face with Kentucky on the 1-inch line, and they decide to kneel it out on the 1-inch line.
That's the worst.
They could kick
if you want to kneel, do it kneeling.
You could score a touchdown, and I hit. So many different scenarios.
How did Baby Cone do yesterday?
He went 3-3.
3-3. All right, yeah. I'm still like 59, 37-1 against the spread. Need to have a good day today. Let's just hit all our bets today, guys. Yeah, remember, you guys can follow us on social media. Go to @Crane Company on Twitter, everywhere else. Appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. Spread the word. Live 7:30 to 9 Eastern a.m. each weekday. Lot to cover this week. Not only NFL today, huge weekend of college football, Major League Baseball playoffs, NHL starting, NBA starting, Quidditch is just ending. A lot of stuff going on. We appreciate you guys, and we'll check y'all out tomorrow morning. Have a good weekend. Bless up.